Good evening to everyone. I welcome you to Deighton Griffith Secondary School for what can only be deemed an important conversation, a national conversation on traffic in Barbados. Allow me to introduce and acknowledge members of the head table. And I start with Minister of Transport and Works, Senior Coordinating Infrastructure, the Honorable Kirk Humphrey. Right here at my left is Minister of State in the Ministry of Transport and Works, the Honorable Dr. Rommel Springer, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Works, Jehu Wiltshire. Sitting in the middle of the Minister of State and Minister Humphrey is the Chief Technical Officer, Jennifer King, and at the far end is Jason Boyne, Deputy Chief Technical Officer, Design Services. I'm Antoine Williams, the moderator. And so this evening we're here to discuss traffic. And we know that it is a major concern for all Barbadians. But tonight is really about solutions. Tonight is about hearing real experiences, and it is about working together to improve how we can move across this country. Traffic affects all of us. Whether we're going to work, to school, running businesses, getting home safely at the end of the day, it is a major concern. And that is the singular reason why the Ministry of Transport and Works has started this series of town hall meetings. This is the first of 4 consultations held island-wide so that ministry officials and ministers can listen, share ideas, and of course, practical next steps, as it were. This evening, you will have an opportunity to hear presentations from the technical team at the ministry, and you will also be hearing remarks from the Honorable Minister of Transport and Works, Senior Minister Coordinating Infrastructure, Kirk Humphrey. And the outline of the national approach to improving traffic flow, safety, and efficiency on our roads will be delivered to you. As a matter of housekeeping, on your arrival, those of you who are interested in posing any questions, you were given slips, and those slips carry numbers. So at that point, I will direct you accordingly, numerically in that regard. I'm asking that your comments be as brief as possible, as well as your questions. At this point in time, I now invite Minister Humphrey to address you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon. Or good evening, rather. I want to thank all of you for coming out this evening to this, what I think is a very important conversation. I am sure that you, like definitely those of us at this table, are very concerned about traffic and all the surrounding issues that lead us to traffic. As you all are well aware, I'm a fairly new minister to the ministry, so I am learning at a rapid pace, but I felt before we came to the public with a wide range of solutions, because we do have some, that it was important that we have a conversation around the issues that affect you, how you understand it. And to move this conversation, I think, beyond a sporadic, sometimes not so productive, useful conversation to one that allows us to be focused and address this issue as a national development issue, which is essentially what it has become. I have no doubt that, like myself, most of you in the room struggle with making it to places on time. Routes that used to take you probably 20 minutes now take you an hour in some cases or more. Many persons may determine to stay home rather than to face the traffic. I know it is also an issue of mental health and having to deal with this traffic. So we've come here tonight to have that conversation. I believe, as Minister, one of the things I have to do up front is to say to you how sorry I am that Barbados has come to this stage, but how happy I am that you are here to become part of the solution. I've said before that I think the time has come for a national reset in relation to how we address traffic, in relation to how we address the roads, and a number of issues. And I hope that this conversation and these consultations over the next 2 weeks, because we're going to have this tonight. Wednesday, we go to Princess Margaret School. Next Monday, I think we go to the St. Michael's School. And then the Wednesday, we end at Alexandra, unless, of course, Barbados determines that there must be another conversation. So I'm hoping to have this conversation today. As the MC said, we're hoping that the contributions are as precise as they can be, which is not to say that you have to force yourself to a point where you can't complete your thought, but to be as precise as you can be, to be as specific, especially if it's a location, as you can be as thorough yet succinct in relation to the ideas that you share going forward. And let us, for all of us, because I assure you there's nobody at this table who is different from you in relation to the frustration we're feeling with the traffic and in relation to what it is that we hope to be able to have. I should also say to you before I hand over the mic back to the MC, before we go to our very brief presentation, which should only stimulate conversation, is that we have here tonight a number of persons, some at the head table, persons who represent the various agencies and departments in the ministry. So somebody from Transport and Work, from the Transport Board, somebody from the Transport Authority. We have police persons from the Traffic Division of the Barbados Police Service. There are persons here who could probably answer most of the questions, or at least give you a response if they're not able to give you that response immediately. So again, I want to end, as I began, by thanking you for coming out and for saying to you that together I believe we can shape a very positive response to what is a very perplexing situation for all of us. As I said, I've only been in the ministry for 4 weeks, but I do know if we do not tackle traffic up front, then Barbados stands to lose out thousands and thousands of dollars, thousands of productive time. You got to wake your children earlier to get into school, so they lose their own sleep time. It's a major problem. So I'm hoping that we can really have a productive conversation that would allow us to address some of those issues. So thank you very much. As the MC said as well, if you have a point that you want to raise, there are 2 persons sitting over at the table over there. You just give them your name so that they can call your number, and then we'd have an orderly conversation. So thank you very, very much, and I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. It is now an opportunity for Jason Boyne, the Deputy Chief Technical Officer, Design Services, to offer a presentation. And remember, this is about traffic in Barbados. I'm sure that coming out of these consultations, and based on your remarks and your feedback, all of this will form part of the way forward as far as traffic management in Barbados is concerned. So I invite you now to view the presentation and then, of course, make your notes so that you, as audience members, can make your remarks following such. Jason, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. As I said, my name is Jason Boyne. I am the Deputy Chief Technical Officer for Design Services. Traffic management in Barbados is part of my responsibility, all right? Okay, today we're going to have a presentation essentially on the existing traffic conditions that we see in the country. So I'll go through a number of examples of some of the congested areas and some of the problems that may result in these in the congestion itself, right? So in terms of the scope, I just outlined that. That's what I'm going to be focusing on, essentially just the existing conditions, and then we will have that conversation afterwards so you can bring your comments and also your solutions to the existing problem. All right. Essentially, what we'll be looking at on my end, we're going to discuss the number of registered vehicles on the roads, a number of different areas. I'm going to outline a number of areas which you can see where delay occurs, and I will discuss what be the causes of some of that, and also I'm going to look at in terms of the vehicle crash rates in the country as well, and as I said, the examples of traffic condition. In terms of the number of registered vehicles on the roads up to February of 2026, there are over 181,544 vehicles on the roads of Barbados at the present. All right? So moving to the road crashes, if we were to look at this graph that we have here, this graph is information that we would have received from the police over time from the 1980s right up to 2021 in terms of the vehicle crash rates, and this is a total overall. And what you can see is that the general trend for overall crash rates are increasing over time, and that is something that when you compare that to the number of vehicles and the growth of vehicles over time, this is comparable to that in terms of that growth has been consistent between the two. Similarly, in terms of the property damage, only this is just crashes involving vehicles that are just, as I say, property damage. There's no injuries. Similarly, there's a similar trend in terms of growth over time. I will also state that here, these form the vast majority of crashes that we see in the country. However, in terms of fatalities, from the 1980s to 2021, we have seen a consistent decline of fatal accidents over time. So from the 1980s, you could have seen somewhere between, let's say on average, somewhere around 30 fatal crashes every year. Our trend is downwards. We are now below 20, normally below 20 crashes every year. All right. The serious accidents, a similar story. The trend has been going downward every year. Now, this is not something that just happened. This has occurred due to the significant efforts of the ministry to provide improved junctions, improved roads. When you say improved junctions, we've been putting in more and better signalized junctions, better designed roads. We've been putting in roundabouts. All of these have contributed to this decline in terms of making roads safer for everyone. However, there's obviously an issue relative to the increasing property damage only accidents. That is something we still have to address. All right, in terms of traffic conditions, well, everything is important relative to traffic management. Traffic management is not just simply about only traffic flow, because what I will say is that when one looks at the improvements that we've made in terms of some of the junctions that we've improved, unfortunately, the knock-on effect, it has also increased the congestion as well. So there is a price that may be paid for improving safety, just as for everyone to know, right? So in terms of vehicle speeds, now we would have taken a vehicle and we would have driven that vehicle along the congested roads, such as Highway 1, that is the West Coast Road, Colmar Rock, Station Hill, a number of roads in entering the St. Michael area and Christchurch areas as well. And what we would have done is recorded the speeds of the vehicles. We've recorded the speed of that vehicle in that area and determined the average speed. And what we found is during the peak hours, particularly in the morning peak, we would have seen that, and now these are roads where the speed limit is 60 or 80 kilometers per hour. However, the speeds that we are seeing, like 24 kilometers per hour, in some cases as low as 5 kilometers per hour on some roads. This is just to show how bad the situation is. It is extremely bad. Congestion is significant, and this is something that definitely has to be looked at. If we look at the period of time in between the morning peak time and the evening peak time, you'll see that the speeds are increased, but there are still challenges even in that period that relative to, because even as we speak, in terms of during the daytime, you'll find that more traffic is even on the roads now, even at the lunchtime period. So there's significant congestion on the roads even then. So the problem is now becoming almost the entire day. All right. So at this point, we're just moving on out. I want to show you some images, a series of images, essentially. I would obtain these images from Google Maps. They have a feature called a typical traffic. It shows the typical traffic in terms of speeds. So basically, we take that. What it does is that it has a grid system where it shows you where it's green, traffic is flowing free, almost free flow. Where it is deep red, it shows that traffic speeds are very, very slow, very, very slow. And if you were to look at the whole town, where the deep red areas, in this area here, this is by Lime Grove and the Massey stores on mornings. That is a significant congested area. And then similarly on evenings, you can see the deep red area, which is the approach coming from Bridgetown. Significant congestion occurs in that area, and that is consistent with what we are seeing even when we go and observe, physically. In terms of the Ronald Map Highway Porters Junction, this is a junction that we had recently installed traffic signals, and I know persons, they do have complaints relative to how those traffic signals operate, and they have caused some congestion in the area. However, they have also improved safety. That's why sometimes some of the things that we do, there's always a knock-on effect to certain things, all right? But here you can clearly see the deep red on mornings, which is on the approach to the junction, while on the other end, on the evenings, you can see, well, it's not shown there clearly, but normally there's a heavy traffic heading in that direction on evenings. In the Warrens area, significant congestion occurs, and I just want to focus basically on the Green Hill section where what happens there, especially on mornings and evenings, there's generally traffic which, what we would say, spills back from Green Hill section through the roundabout by Everton Weeks, and that impedes the flow of traffic of motorists traveling from Hullsville turning. So that causes traffic to build and back up along that section, creating significant congestion in the area. Now, there are reasons why that occurs, and I'll show you some of the reasons that we have here. You can see this is by the near Price Mart, the Friendship Terrace Junction. You can see there's a PSV which is stopped, impeding the flow of vehicles in the area. That contributes significantly to some of the problems that we see here. So that is something that we really will have to look at. There are other problems, but that's just some of the issues in the area. Now, moving on to the Huddlesville Waterford area. This is another area where spillback from downstream traffic essentially blocks the flow of traffic here. In the mornings, traffic by the Calmere Waterford Junction, because of that heavy right turn that you would have at that location, traffic then that causes traffic to build and spill back into the roundabout by Huddlesville turning there, and the traffic on the ABC highway just can't get through, and it further contributes to the congestion there. While on evenings now, the situation is now reversed. So between the roundabout and the junction in Huddlesville turning, which would be by Kelsey's supermarket, traffic does not clear there at a rapid rate. Traffic spills back through the roundabout, and then there is an issue where motorists on the highway cannot get through the traffic. So that has caused significant congestion in that area where traffic stretches almost at times back to Warrens, which is quite unfortunate and significant for those motorists. Norman Mills and JTC Ramsey roundabout. JTC Ramsey roundabout is what people commonly refer to as Buster roundabout. Significant traffic. Again, you can see deep red areas. This here in the morning. And then here by the same Buster roundabout, this is deep red on the going to town sections. While on the evenings, the situation is reversed. You can see the deep red, slow-moving traffic on the approach exiting town, and similarly at the Norman Mills roundabout, a similar thing. Those junctions have capacity problems. When I say capacity, basically more traffic is trying to use the junction than the junction was actually designed to handle. So they have to be improved. All right. These are two photos one is of the JTC Ramsey roundabout, and then the one on the right, you can see the congested conditions away, which is traffic on the approach from Norman Mills heading towards the JTC Ramsey roundabout. Wildy Colmarock. The Wildy section, especially on mornings, has significant problems. And a major contributor to this, we have the Luther Thorne School right here. And if you notice where the deep red area is on mornings, it is just right by the school. Just right by the school. Right? And that contributes to congestion all the way going back to Garfield Sobers roundabout on mornings. Right? And just let me show you a photo here. If you look at the photo on the right, you can see, this is a photo where you can see Luther Thorne School, and you can see that there are vehicles that are parked and the parents are dropping off their children, and persons are parked on the sidewalk, persons are parked in the lay-by, and traffic that is causing this traffic that is backed up all along Clapham Wildy section of the road. After that, if you get me, persons go past that, you would see that the road would have been quite clear after that. So definitely, this is a significant problem that we are seeing. This is also repeated at other schools, especially in the St. Michael area. This happens at the St. Lawrence Composite School on morning. This happens as the parents drop off their children. This happens at schools that are on Government Hill as well. So it's a significant problem. And mind you, when school is out of session, these roads generally tend to be free and clear. Worthing, this is another area where significant problems happen, particularly in the evening time. We have, if you can see on the evening one, this is the picture on the right. You can see the deep red conditions here. This is the gas station located right here. This is the junction, and you can see the deep red conditions showing here, slow moving traffic. And I have seen this traffic going much further than Rockley. As a matter of fact, I've seen it gone further to Hastings as a result. All right. Now, this one is a little challenging because we've made changes after change to the signal times here. But if you notice on this photo, there's a slow-moving traffic heading towards the St. Lawrence area. This is backed up right through the junction. And what is happening is that the efficiency of the junction is basically compromised. We cannot get, the junction cannot effectively manage all of the traffic because of this spillback through the junction. It's basically impeding the flows through the junction, and this is a problem. So effectively, while people may think that this may be the problem, this is not the total problem. The junction has some other problems relative to its detectors and so forth, but without that, this will always cause a problem until we solve why the traffic is backing up from here right through the junction. Right. As you can see here, this is a photo of, on the left, of a motorist exiting the service station and making right turns onto the road. This is a significant problem as well. These right turns, heavy right turns all along these roads create problems, and this is something that we have to look at, because while that may be that one person, I've witnessed one person making a right turn and the entire stream is clear while everything is backed up waiting on this guy can complete his maneuver. And that has caused some congestion, or at least I should say it contributes significantly to the problem as well. The St. Lawrence area. This is another area where, well, this is all connected to the same Worthing area in terms of problems. Now, the image to the top, you can see the deep red areas. This is the morning period. And as you can see, where the deep red starts, just in the area just after the school, the St. Lawrence Composite School, and traffic deep red all the way through Maxwell as a result. Again, this is one of the problems which causes the congestion in the area, the school itself, the parents picking up and dropping off their children on mornings, and there's a bus stop there. There's also an uncontrolled crossing as well. So as soon as the parent drops off their child, it can probably take a whole minute for everyone to get their children across the road. So you can understand why so much congestion would then emanate if every single car going to that school does that maneuver. So if you get 100 cars doing that, you can understand the kind of congestion you would experience. Now, on evenings, the same St. Lawrence area now, you will find that there's congestion right up to the St. Lawrence Gap Junction, and this is an area where the slow-moving traffic that I just would have indicated takes place, and that is something that we have to find a solution to. This is just another photo of the slow-moving traffic traveling between Worthing and St. Lawrence. And in terms of Bridgetown, I'm just going to go straight to the photos here that I have. It's mainly about parking. There's a lot of indiscriminate parking in Bridgetown. This is Broad Street. You can see the area here by Scotiabank. And you can see these two cars here, they are parked right here. There's actually there is a no waiting restriction along this side of the street, but for some reason, persons would come here and park for significant periods of time. With the photo on here, this vehicle here was parked, and this vehicle here was parked. There's a no waiting restriction on Broad Street, so these vehicles should not be here carrying out this type of activity, because what happens now is that persons now have to maneuver through all of this, and this also causes the traffic to slow down and further congestion in the area. Or at this point, I'm going to move on to some road maintenance plans that we have for Christchurch. We are looking at Enterprise Road, Ferry Valley, Wilcox Hill, Lodge Road, and also Highway 7 to Gibbons. Right? Now for Enterprise Road, we've already started we've already began the surveys and designs on the roads, and we are looking to start at the beginning of March of this year. Ferry Valley and Time Bottom, we are also looking to start physical work in March 23rd of this year. Yep. And in terms of the Lodge Road, we had a kickoff meeting on January 29th of this year, and designs are ongoing. So as to start the mains replacement that has to start, and relocation that has to start shortly. All right. All right. All right. There are a number of other residential roads that we'll be looking at. The roads in Marine Gardens, First Avenue, Maxwell, and Maxwell Plains. We're going to be doing this year in Christchurch as well. All right. Now, I just want to show you guys some of the complexity relative to some of the work that is going to be involved. And we also have the Highway 7 improvement. And when we talk about utilities, all of these lines here represent either utilities or drains. The yellow is gas main. The blue is water line. The red is a sewer line. Drains are the orange line. All of these are within that road, right? And there's going to be plans now to replace the majority of them. So this is going to be fairly complex and tedious work, and you can see from their positioning, these are spread right away across the road. So this is going to cause some significant challenges on this road. So when this work starts, we can definitely expect further challenges and so forth, right? All right. At this point, a number of issues. As I said, we have issues relative to the numerous right turns on the road, some of the junctions having capacity issues, some of the accesses being too close to junctions. We have PSVs who are stopping at any point and not utilizing the bus laybys or bus stops effectively. In some cases, which I didn't mention, but we do have the heavy pedestrian movements at some uncontrolled crossings along the highway, which contributes to delays as well. And also the inappropriate parking along the roads adds further to the delays that motorists face, right? And at this point, I hand the meeting back to the chairman.
Thank you very much. That was a presentation by Jason Boyne, offering you a comprehensive presentation. Jason is the Deputy Chief Technical Officer, Design Services. Now, it is at this point in time that I certainly would want for you to offer your feedback, questions, concerns. I am told there are about 14 persons at this point who are interested in offering such. I'll be calling the numbers, and as the numbers are called, you are invited to the mic area and make your presentations as brief and concise as you possibly can. Should you be posing a question, you can indicate to whom that question will be posed. And let me just repeat again for your benefit, especially for those who've just arrived. At the head table, and I'm going to start from my left, is the Minister of State in the Ministry of Transport and Works, the Honorable Dr. Ramal Springer. Next to him is Jennifer King, the Chief Technical Officer. Next to Jennifer is the Minister of Transport and Works, Senior Coordinating Infrastructure, Honorable Kirk Humphrey. And you've just heard the presentation by Jason Boyne. And is that everyone? Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Jehu Wiltshire. And before I allow you to offer your comments, also allow me to acknowledge and recognize Member of Parliament for Christchurch Central, West Central, the Honorable Adrian Ford, as well as Member of Parliament for Christchurch East Central, the Honorable Ryan Strawn. It is now your turn to offer your comments on this very important topic, traffic management in Barbados. Number one. You can go to the mic. Oh, she has a presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julia Wendt. I'm actually coming from the north, and I'm not really going to talk about that. Can you hear? I'm sorry? Julia Wendt from the, and I'm coming from the north. Basically, I mean, I gave a bunch of ideas. I think it's easier to present it in image rather than to talk about it because there's so many roads and details. But one thing other than that I was going to mention was that it occurred to me, and I think you confirmed it, that a lot of the traffic that happens around the time when children are in school. And so I recall, I think many years ago, I believe a program was started. I'm not sure if it was finished or if it was implemented, where the idea was to create a bus route for school children. So to add to that, what I was thinking was instead of calling it a bus route, rather to call it a school route, where you have perhaps setting up hub points on the outskirts of the city. So, for example, I mean, this is just off the top of my head, someplace like Spring Garden or out by Haggett Hall or somewhere on the outskirts of the city where you have a drop-off point for children and they just have a school route so that the buses are not empty and one bus just carries, will service several different schools. That's one of my suggestions, to take the school traffic, to reduce the school traffic. The other thing is, I thought coming here this afternoon, I came from Warrens, I took the highway. Specifically, I'm up from the north, so I don't take traffic, I don't take afternoon traffic, but I took the route to be able to experience what it is on an afternoon coming south. And so I went from Warrens to Clyde Walcott, of course, where there was the backup. And then it cleared, and then it backed up again at the Bell. So I thought, okay, what I did is I took the detour and I went up to the Bell, went out by Glebe, and then I went straight across Highway W, I think is called there by, it is a name by St. George Primary School. And there was no traffic. There was no traffic coming, all the way here. So, it's just a consideration. I thought I would just add that. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any comments from the head table, members?
I appreciate the points, particularly with the hubs. We are looking at that type of situation where we were looking at a number of points along the ABC Highway to consider as pick-up and drop-off points for such activity with school children, as well as park and ride sites in general for everybody to utilize. So that is something that we are considering. All right?
Minister?
Yeah. I was just saying, I also think that if persons are going to be comfortable putting their children on the buses, they have to be sure that the buses are clean, that the buses are safe, that the buses are going to be on time, that perhaps there's Wi-Fi, that they know when the children are dropped off, when they're picked up. This is more than just the mechanics of it. I think if we want Barbadians to trust that we are going to take responsibility for their children, we have to put in place the mechanisms to guarantee that not only that the children are safe, but that the parents know that the children are always safe. And so we're going to have to train up the drivers. We're going to make sure we have security on those vehicles. It would have to be that we offer a better plan than currently what obtains. So we've given it some thought. We've had these conversations. And if we're going to do that, and I think we may have to, those are some of the additional things we're going to be doing so that people feel comfortable putting their children on those vehicles.
Thank you. I indicated at the start that there are 14 questions, and now we have 22. So that's why it's so important for you to offer your comments and or your questions as brief as possible. Question number 2.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so my contribution around this,
Sorry, please say your
If you be
name.
so
sorry,
kind,
sorry. My
if
name
you be
is
so
Philip.
kind to state your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Philip King.
Sorry?
Philip King.
Philip King.
Yeah, sorry about that. Right, so the conversation about relieving traffic congestion from my part is primarily around the same thing with the schools and so on, the congestion that is created when parents are dropping children off and picking them up and so on, right? And obviously that seems to be a pretty major factor because as you notice, it doesn't happen during the times when the children are on vacation and so on, right? But the primary problem seems to be that there is no, the lay-by is not wide enough. There's no additional parking area also where the parents or the guardians can take their charges off the road to deal with the situation and then come back onto the road, thereby letting the bypass traffic go through the congested area without problems. So my question then would be, what is the plan going forward to address that particular situation?
Philip, to whom are you posing that question?
Yes.
Sorry?
To who?
Yeah.
I believe
Jason?
Jason, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
I must say all of the locations we are actually looking at by the schools in the St. Michael area. There are areas where we are looking for lay-by areas, or even if there's vacant land near to some of the schools, that we could probably utilize that parents can come off the road and park and then pick up or drop off their children, like the same Luther Thorne School. There's a big open area right next to the school which we could look at, or even as an area we could get a lay-by in that we could also do that. So we are actually looking at that, and thank you for that as well, right?
Thank you very much. Question number 3.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ralph Luce. I'm here in my capacity as a volunteer for the Barbados Trailway on behalf of the Future Centre
Sorry,
Trust.
I'm having difficulty understanding you. So I'm very sorry. I didn't get your name, and you have to...
Ralph Luce.
Slow down a little bit, Ralph, please.
Ralph.
Thank you, bro.
I'm German. Barbados has been my home for the last 26 years. I have seen...
Thank you for choosing Barbados.
My wife likes it a lot. I like it a lot. This is our home. I will be getting my citizenship soon, I hope. I've seen the traffic. I first came here on my honeymoon not knowing I was going to be living here 3 years later. This was in 1996, and those who are my age, most of you are too young to remember the pre-ABC highway days. I have seen the ABC highway with a single lane. I've now seen it with 2 lanes. I think most people will agree that the transit times from the airport to mile and a quarter have not changed a whole lot. And we keep adding lanes. And now we're going to add flyovers. And in 10 years, we'll be sitting here. The transit times will still not have changed. Now, I think it's not fair to put you guys here from the MTW. And Minister Humphrey, I applaud you for coming and facing the public. I don't want to talk about the problems. We all know it's the schools, it's the minibuses, it is some lawlessness in the driving generally. I know the staff, we've interacted with Jason, Mrs. King, are highly qualified. They have the solutions. What I would like to encourage you to work with your fellow ministries, because you alone cannot solve this issue. Traffic and congestion has an impact on the national health. There is a solution, and this is offering real alternatives to driving by car. Public transport has been mentioned. If we can encourage people to walk and cycle more, why are people no longer cycling and walking? Because it's not considered safe. We saw the statistics. Yes, the cars have gotten safer. The infrastructure has been built to make the drivers safer. But we also have far fewer people walking and cycling. So this cannot be solved by the Ministry of Transport alone. This has to be a concerted effort. The Ministry of Education needs to look at the school system, whether it's staggering the hours, whether it is studying how far students travel every morning, whether we need more continuous sidewalks. Children will always prefer to walk or cycle with their friends. They will rather spend half an hour walking or cycling than 15 minutes in their parents' car glued to a screen. So I know Jason and Mrs. King have this data. This has been shown many, many times. I'm worried we're still discussing flyovers and adding lanes when in 10 years we'll be having this discussion again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just a question, come back. So you don't think widening the highways, or even when we move from 1 to 2, or widening would reduce some of the conditions we're facing?
I think your technical experts will confirm that the evidence over the last 30 years has shown that widening of highways in very few occasions has resulted in any permanent congestion relief. It is a temporary measure, it is very costly, and there are better alternatives. Your staff is aware of these. I know I'd be happy to help as my volunteer capacity for the Barbados Trailway. We know that it is not the lack of interest of Barbadians to walk and cycle, because when the boardwalk was opened, people started walking. They're not allowed to cycle there. When we opened the demo section of the Barbados Trailway, I was there this afternoon, there were people skating, there were people cycling, there were people walking, there were people running. So it's not the weather, it's the lack of safe infrastructure. And if we can shift some of the people who would traditionally move by cars onto other methods, not only is it better for the environment, it is also more equitable, because not everybody can afford a car. So we're spending a lot of government's budget. MTW has, not quite sure if it's the largest budget, but it's a significant budget, and we're spending it on roads that primarily benefit owners of cars. They help the business, they help the economy by moving things swiftly, but it is not a very equitable way of spending government money. So it's not a question, it's an encouragement. Speak up, but you need the help, you need the awareness in the other government ministries to get this problem resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you very much. Question 4.
Good night to all. My name is Grant Seeley. Now, what I would like to say, observations and suggestions.
You probably got to hold the mic, or somebody got to raise the microphone for you.
Okay. Can you hear me clearly now? Good. Yes, you can hear me clearly now. Right. Now, one of my first observations in this traffic situation is that we have to reduce the number of vehicles in Barbados. I along with that gentleman. Regardless of what we do, we have to reduce it. Let's face facts. And we have to get a better public bus service. All the other things are pie in the sky and a waste of time. I am telling you that. I can offer some suggestions to ease the traffic, and then I am going to get to the flyover. Now, if you in Bridge Road going over to Bank Hall, you have this long line of traffic, and the first gentleman in the front is turning right. Nobody from the other side is letting pass. So that whole line has missed the lights. The same thing in the other direction. If you go to the top of Deacon's Road, going into Grisette's, only one side turns. So everybody can flow from Deacon's Road. When the lights go the other side, everybody can flow from Grisette's. It don't take a rocket science. It's a simple procedure, and that can save tons of wasted energy and time. On the situation with the South Coast, I think you all should look at regulating the traffic lights. Gemmitt's Lane, by Beckles Road, and Rendezvous. If you check it, if the lights are flashing, no traffic. Put on the lights to stop. The dog dead. Everybody back up all evening. There's got to be some way that y'all can regulate the lights better. But I see that gentleman there is also agreeing with me. Let me just mention. Now, what I would like also is better markings on the road. I am a little old, but I noticed since last year, a road was resurfaced between Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic and the bottom of Beatle. I raised this at a meeting last year. Up to now, you can't get a marking on that road. What I would like you all to do is the contractors for the roads.
Sorry, which road this is again? Sorry.
Samuel Jackman Prescott down to BT Hill. No markings to show you the center of the road. What it appears to me is that a lot of people in the ministry usually use helicopters or something. They don't laugh, they don't factually use the road, because I cannot understand how something like that could have been so since last year. All over the country now, you're putting down these lights. Yeah, that's good for the night, but in the daytime, you can't pick it up. You need the paint on the road. What I'm saying is that the contractors in their contract to do the surfacing should be allowed and include painting of the road as soon as it finishes. And it is impossible to pick up the center of the road with this pitch black. Or the edge. And I think this is something simple. It doesn't cost anything. It is simple. Right? Now, what I noticed that y'all are doing now, and I am impressed, you're dealing with the potholes. I will tell you where I live. I live over in Bannatyne. And between Bannatyne and St. David's is one of the worst roads in Barbados. You know what we have gone to done now? We are marking the potholes. Next week, we'll probably name them. There's a lot of paint around them. That road has not been done in about 35 years, and nobody is doing anything. There's no light on that road. You can't use it after dark. It's out of the question of using it. So watch me. I had to leave out there. I had to come across Bannatyne, straight down Kingston, come back to the roundabout here, and come up here. And that is how I have to do it again. But there's nothing. Okay? And every week I call, usual problem. You know, we ain't got nothing. We ain't got no truck. So we can't come and fill a hole. I will tell you something, Mr. Minister. I told Ms. Motley this about 3 years ago. MTW and government departments are the only people in Barbados who get vehicles made on Mondays. You want to know why it's a Monday? That is the day that the fellas come in drunk and they put up the vehicles. Because whenever you call MTW to get something done, the vehicle down. But everybody else in Barbados won't work, you know. But only MTW. This is just my observation, sir. Now, regards to flyovers. It's a brilliant idea, but not for Barbados. Please widen the roads. A brilliant idea. I am going to put it to you now and your technical team. The biggest bridge in Barbados, we will probably say, is Charles Duncan O'Neill Bridge. The biggest single span bridge is the one in Bridge Road. But the highest and widest bridge, I think you call it the Constitution Gully, is the bridge over there. Between St. Thomas Parish Church and Mile and a Quarter, there's about 14 or 15 bridges over gullies. I am going to ask you all now, when last was any inspections done on them? Following up on that, if we cannot maintain them, how are we going to maintain the flyover?
Okay.
I'm waiting for a response.
You're waiting for a response?
Yes, I put it to them, they will speak back to me. As a taxpayer, so I want to hear what suggestions they have on matters like this.
I know your comments are being noted.
They noted?
No, he wants to answer. We have to
Minister?
give him an answer, so
Yes, sir.
somebody will answer.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good night, everybody. My name is Richard Austin. I'm the Deputy Chief Technical Officer in charge of operations.
Yes, sir.
That means I'm responsible for roads and bridges.
Yes, sir.
With regards to the question you asked about when the bridges were maintained or inspected. We are currently going through last year, to answer your question. We have paid specific attention to the bridges on Highway 2A, and we have an engineer is currently looking at some solutions for some of the things that we've been seeing on that stretch of road. Sorry, I said we have engaged an engineer who is considering, who is providing the ministry with solutions for some of the bridges along that stretch of road.
Very good, very good. But you know, when I drive across some of these bridges, and funny enough, I had the opportunity today to go from Graham Hall into, I think you call Springfield Plantation, St. Lucie. And when you drive over and you look at some of the bridges, you wouldn't believe that they're maintained. The amount of bush, stuff, and things. So what I'm just drawing a reference, if we can't get this done at our level, how are we going to deal with flyovers? So I just want you all to be rational about this thing. The only thing that might save me is that this war with Israel might cut down on the usage of cars, and that will help us. But please don't let me go put the flyovers and can't maintain them. We got a history of it in everything in Barbados. We cannot maintain anything, full stop. I want you all to object to that. That's a fact of life. Even Hamila walk over, you got a problem out there with that. And nobody goes and maintain these things.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we, over the last couple of years, we have begun an inspection and maintenance program.
Hold the mic up so that...
Okay, sorry. We have begun an inspection program, and we are going to be increasing our inspection program over this year and in the next. I'm hoping that in this year we can actually be able to complete a comprehensive inspection of all of the. There are approximately 70 bridges on the island, and you're right, there are quite a number of bridges on Ronald Map Highway, and beyond the bridges that I mentioned that we are currently looking at on Ronald Map. There are a number of other bridges. I think the total is about maybe 24 bridges or so of that 70 that are currently enrolled in engineering consultancy programs.
Thank you. I'll just like
The point is that we are looking at the bridges. The definitive answer coming to me is that the bridges you asked about, they were reviewed last year. They are at different stages requiring different things, and the engineers are looking out. We're going to get costings, and for the work that has to be done going forward, we're going to do that work. But the bridges, to answer your question, it was done last year.
Right, but you understood why I raised the bridges for.
Fully understand that if we're struggling here, we're going fancy foot in here, and we can't handle here. I got it.
Good. But by the way, though, what about the markings now for these potholes? I want to hear about that. If they can come with names now.
We named the potholes?
Yeah.
Listen,
look,
look,
we get three colors.
I laughing, but before I was Minister of Public Works, and even now I am first and foremost like Ryan Strawn and Adrian Ford, I am first and foremost an MP. And I know that I've had a number of potholes. I raised it with them today, and they raised it with them last week, but 3 weeks ago before estimates. There are a number of potholes in Barbados, and people want to see us making progress on the potholes.
Right.
And some of them have gotten bigger over time. And you want to know...
Why you coloring them?
I ain't gonna name them, but you want us to solve the problem in a serious way, right? You want to know that the potholes, we either have a plan for fixing the potholes or we fix the potholes, period.
Good.
And I suspect within the next week, the same guy who just spoke, Mr. Austin, is going to be engaging the public with a comprehensive response. I'm happy to have my good friend, the Minister of Finance, who's also here, as we talk about some of the equipment that we need to be able to carry out further work. Trust me, this is a bigger problem for me than it is for most. One, as an MP, as I'm telling you, but I'm also the member, I'm also the minister, and I've said to them, they will tell you, I spend the whole day talking about potholes. We got to be able to offer the public a serious response to the pothole problem that they have. And we have to be able to communicate. So I suspect very soon you're going to hear us talking about a consolidation of all of our resources and coming into areas. The public will know what the area is before we come. Then they will know which are the next 2-3 areas before we get there. so that people will be able to know. At the same time, while there are the major potholes that are causing big problems, especially on the major roads, we will fix those ones with a little bit greater haste. So there is a plan coming, and either Mr. Austin, who just spoke, or Ms. King, to my right, will be interfacing with the public with more regularity to be able to inform the public about the things we're doing.
One thing I would just like to add, recently you gave a contract for that Bank Hall Road from Eagle Hall up to the junction there. I think you call it Sober's Corner. That is only about 6 months. But you know all the road along with Cool Air AC is deteriorated. When the first part was done, I spoke to a minister, the one that is of housing now, and told him that that road is being put down very bad. And if you go across that road now, you will see all right dug up. And I don't know how you all pay or if there's a time period which the contractors must come back and fix it. Because to me, it is ridiculous that in only about 6 months, that road has deteriorated so bad. Because just there by Prescott Bottom, there's a concrete culvert, and there are bare holes around it. So you see the traffic backup and figure that it is the traffic backup, I think, but it's the traffic backup because the holes are in the road. And I would like you all to have a look at it because it is rather serious to spend that kind of money to a contractor, and within 6 months, the whole road deteriorating. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I don't know what to say either, but I know that we're taking a road. I'm being very serious. I'm being very serious. We're taking a road tour. I told the staff at MTW, the days of us hanging out in the office, done. We're taking a road tour because this government's money is taxpayers' money. And the quality of the work that we get, we got to make sure that we get good quality work. That said, there are often occasions where you pave a road, like I had Villa Road paved, and then quickly thereafter, a main burst on the Villa Road. And then Water Authority had to come and cut the road. And then after they fixed that one burst further down the road. So then they had to come. A lot of the pipes that we're driving on are 100 years old.
No, you know that.
So they really can't carry the weight of some of the vehicles that they're driving. So you keep having these things. What we need to have, and we started, is having better coordination with ourselves and the utility companies to make sure we can plan better when we're doing some of these roads. And then I've come to the recent realization and understanding that there is a situation where Water Authority may do the road to a point. Either we come behind Water Authority, or then they have another company to come and do the asphalt, and then sometimes there's a time distance between when the road is reinstated partially before the asphalt, and when the asphalt actually comes, all the marl washes out. You got to put back in the marl and compact it again. So that time frame we have to be, I just being honest with you, that time frame we have to make sure that that is a minimum between the time we do the road and reinstate the road. The other thing is people want quick solutions, right? But a lot of these roads, we mill and paved, a lot of the mill and paved roads were quick solutions. You used to come and you scrape off 2 inches and you think back the road and people get through quick. Those roads can't withstand no constant pressure. To get a proper road, you have to take your time, go down a few, sometimes inches, maybe feet. I know on the highway, for example, we go down in some spots well over a foot, 9, 10 inches. Sorry, a foot plus 9 inches. So I know that there are some places where it's so deep. I was told along content, we went down 10 feet at content. So I know there's some inches, in some instances where you need a lot of work. So I think we have to be part of the solution too. Because when you have to do this major work, the road doesn't become repaired in 2 days or 2 weeks. Those works take months. And sometimes the months waiting upset people because it pushes traffic back too. So, you know, we can't have it both ways, but I agree that we have to make sure the work that we're getting, we get better bang for our buck.
Correct. That's what we want you all to do.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
I was going to make the point, just to add to what Minister said, our roads, many of our roads are under a tremendous amount of pressure from the increased vehicle load, and that is the weight of the vehicles on the road and the number of vehicles on the road. And in some cases, as Minister said, when we notice that the roads have gotten to a certain state of deterioration, we have to come in and we have to fix the roads because the public is crying out. And if we have to go through the process of designing those roads in every case and build them so that they be fit for purpose in every case, which is ideal. But in that period, those months that you wait, then it's more stress on your vehicle. which puts us in a position sometimes when we have to go in and fix it just to ease the public. Should we not get the best quality road every single time? But you understand why it has to be done until we can buy some time in some cases to make greater improvements. And you will see evidence of that if you take Highway 2A, which is the one that Minister alluded to. Yes, you would want to go in and mill and pave that road, take off the first 2 to 4 inches of asphalt and repave it. But we know deep in our hearts that the sub-base of those roads are not the greatest. So we had to make the decision to go all the way down and build up the sub-base of the road. So when you build the road, you build the resilience into the road so it can sustain the pressure of the heavy buses and the heavy trucks and the thousands and thousands of cars that are on our roads. That's going to take weeks and months and a lot of inconvenience. So we can't do that in every case, but we do it when we can.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Thank you.
yes, again, we have to reduce the number of vehicles in Barbados.
Thank you, Mr. Seeley. Let's move on now to question number 5. Number 5.
Yeah, good afternoon, folks. I'm actually from the north as well.
Name.
Glenn Husbands. And I actually came to this meeting to be in a better position to make a presentation when you get down to the north, because there's a famous quotation by a guy called J.L. Malcolm that for every complex problem, there is a simple and clear answer that is invariably wrong, because complex problems can't be solved in simple ways. So a couple of questions that I have, and some of the things have come up already. This one I think maybe to MTW about traffic lights. Our traffic lights seem to be fixed. The traffic varies, and I'm asking, are our traffic lights capable of different timings for different times of the day? Because it seems we set them, and it doesn't matter how the traffic is flowing. We know that on their peak times, but the traffic lights seem to stay the same, which causes problems. So who is responsible for traffic lights? And can our traffic lights vary to control the flow of traffic better?
Yeah, definitely our signals we can adjust, we can implement something known as a time of day program. So they can they vary. Even on the South Coast, that has time of day programming inputted into it, even as we speak at this point in time. So they can vary.
So that is all of the traffic lights, like the Gemmett's Lane,
all can vary. All don't have in the time of day program, but that can be accommodated at any of them.
Okay. But the question is why
I was going to say your follow-up question should be why all don't have any time of their program.
Yeah, why isn't it implemented? Won't it make a difference?
Yes, it is definitely going to make a difference in time. We are actually working through all of them at this point in time, inputting new time of day plans. We had started at Rendezvous Junction, and we're going to continue to work through all of the others that don't have. That we'll have those put in place. We had one also at what's their name again? The Round Map Highway, Porters Road Junction, and that one we have to redo again. But definitely all of them have. The biggest issue that they have, many of the junctions have, is that the detectors are not functional. So so while you could put in time of day programming, we also want to make sure that the vehicle detectors are working, and so that is what's happening.
I was going to ask about the detectors, because I noticed important junctions. The one that I noticed which seems as lost the detector is Spring Garden, at the top of Spring Garden, which seems 6 o'clock in the morning, you just go there and wait. There's no traffic, so I said the detector seems to start working.
Well, just while you're at it, we are upgrading all of the detections that we have. We found that the loop detectors that we have that we normally would have put in the roads, they're not as, it's old technology basically. There's newer technology now utilizing cameras and AI technology to essentially on every cycle it records the traffic flows and then recalibrates the signal times on its own. So you don't even have to do that anymore. So when you talk about time of day programming, that even in that, they're going to change, the system will change on its own relative to the actual traffic now. So it's far more advanced than where we were before, and that we're actually building out as we speak.
Okay. I think I'm in a better position to make an actual presentation when I get down to Alexandra School. But a question about the vehicles and the potholes. Who regulates the maximum axle weight of vehicles? When I was growing up, the biggest trucks used to be the little sugar trucks. Now I see massive trucks, and I see massive coaches. And I know in most countries there are limits placed on the load that these vehicles place on the road. I get the impression in Barbados it's a free-for-all. You want to bring in a vehicle, you bring it in, and there's no consideration to the damage it does to the road. And there are no weight stations, because you can bring in a vehicle that only has this amount of pressure, pounds per square inch, based on the number of axles, the number of tires. But then the guys overload the vehicles, and there's no check on the actual weight of the vehicles. Are there regulations to the size, the weights of vehicles that are brought into Barbados, currently operating on the roads? Are there restrictions? Because if it's not, we're just spinning top in mud, because you repair the road and these heavy vehicles just break it up.
I believe we have somebody here from the Licensing Authority. No? Someone was supposed to be here from the Licensing Authority. But I take your point. And if you leave your number, perhaps, I'm sure I'm going to see you next week anyhow.
No, Alexandra, I think it's next month. I think Alexandra's
next week.
Next week? Oh, thank you. I might have missed it.
So I'm sure I'm going to see you next week.
Okay.
But I'll have an answer for you then.
Okay. And my final question is about the planning. I live in St. James. I am affected by... Today I came here, the traffic was backed up from the bottom of Porter's Road past Sandy Lane almost to Holders Hill. I realized in the past I used to go via Shop Hill, or I would go via Highway 2A. Currently, there's no point in going via Shop Hill. That road is so bad. And then when you reach Content, that road has been closed for, over a year. Highway 2A, the contractor started work at Redmond's Village, reduced it to one lane, and left it for a while. Now you're repaving, and it's welcome. But everybody is diverting from those other roads onto Highway 1. So who coordinates the work to stop that kind of thing happening? Or is it just the contract is given to the contractors and go ahead?
Good night.
Good night.
So, in the ideal world, what happens is the contracts are awarded and they're given a certain length of time, and therefore there are different works, and we figure this work should be to a certain point before the next work starts. If there are delays on this work and that other work starts, that is where you're getting that. You're looking puzzled. So we have the contract or the program. There are milestones that they need to meet, and then you will start, the other job is already thing. So you will have that constant, there will be diversions, but this work should be further ahead. Agree?
I understand, but it's a fluid situation.
It's a fluid situation, but remember that you have these contracts have already been awarded. So when that delay comes up on Project B, Project A, and Project B starts, you can have that is where you are getting that problem. you're getting that overlap because of delays on one project, it affects the other project.
Okay. All right.
So, as I said, in the ideal world, if the project program is followed, we wouldn't be seeing that kind of bottleneck happening.
Okay.
But those delays are what is causing it.
Okay, my final one.
Let me just say it to you. I live in the same area, so I travel it. Actually, as is the other minister, he also lives in the area, so we both travel it. So there's nothing you saying. I was confused. There was a point at which there were works on Highway 1, Highway 2A, and then they close off Content, and then the other roads. And for me, I couldn't understand why you closing off all these roads. It becomes almost impossible because then you can't divert. And so I think in the future we're going to have to be better at coordinating a lot of the works. But what Jennifer is saying is absolutely true. Like when you spread the work on a Gantt chart, you go from January to April. This work starts probably at the end of April because by then the road should be good. But you find yourself in April not where you're supposed to be. I think I have to apologize to Barbadians in advance. Most of you want roads done.
Yeah.
Most people. And Barbados is essentially going to be almost a major construction site for the next 2 years. And regrettably, we cannot do the roads in a linear fashion, where we do road A finishes, we do road B. But what we should do is when we're offering, first of all, we have to give consideration to how we divert, because some of those diversions are so long. You know, you take, like from the same road, Ramel showed me this road, so we live in the Orange Hill, St. Celis area. We go through St. Andrew, come all around. And the first time he showed it to me, I thought, wow, this is amazing, only to find out that I end up right there by the New Water Authority building, you know what I mean? There by the sanitation, what their name?
But you should have gone further.
So I end up, after a whole detour, I was like, this is great. I thought I was going to end up in Christchurch. But I end back up right there. No, the first time. So I realized that diversion was so long. And then the other thing was, as I told them before, when we're doing that, we have to either pave some of those roads or patch the potholes. Because we forcing people to divert along some of the worst roads in Barbados. And by the time you get the road fixed, your body got to look for a car. So we got to patch some of those potholes and the roads we divert. We have to let the public know. And I'm hoping that we could find shorter roads. But essentially, we have to coordinate a lot better in terms of the roads that we choose to do so that we wouldn't find ourselves in a situation where that highway to where we were doing 3 sets at one point of major work at the same time, which meant that the traffic became inevitable. And again, I want to apologize in advance because there are going to be many roads in Barbados. The amount of roads to be done. I saw the list today for Christchurch. The Christchurch roads that have to be done are so significant. I don't know how we could not tell Christchurch people right now to brace and to give us some grace. But at the end of the day, they're going to get better roads and better infrastructure pertaining to drainage as well on a lot of these roads. But I take the point. I really do take the point because it affects the both of us in a personal way as well.
All right, thank you, Minister. Thank you, sir.
Just a couple more
Quick
sentences.
wrap up,
yeah,
please.
I will wrap up. Because when we have these diversions, there are other things that can be done. One of my pet peeves on Highway 1 is allowing construction to use the public highway as their staging area. You have a guy who building a hotel on the beach side, puts his construction office on the land side, then he uses the public road for the cement truck to deliver his tractors. His construction workers are wandering across the road with stop signs. You have people delivering stuff at peak times on the main arteries. Surely if you know there are going to be obstructions, you implement something that says you cannot stop to deliver on this main road between this time. If you have a shop, your delivery has to be outside of peak time if the truck has to stop on the road. Construction sites should not be allowed on Christchurch. I saw a construction man paint 3 private pedestrian crossings just to facilitate his work. How can that be allowed? Who polices that for the public? Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, just before I allow question 6. We have a number of questions coming from persons who are online. It will be impractical at this point in time to answer such questions, but be assured that your questions, your comments will be noticed, recognized, and answered periodically during the course of the week. This is the first consultation. The next one takes place on Wednesday at Princess Margaret Secondary School. So this is good as far as the response is concerned, but it's also a time factor, so just be mindful. We thank you very much. Please, sir, state your name and your question.
Good night. My name is Charles Yearwood, a road user from the time I was going to primary school. I want to focus on what I consider to be viable and sustainable, cost-effective approaches to traffic. I come to this conclusion because when we look at the volume of traffic on the road today, and we look at the length of roads we have in Barbados, and remember that the total roads we have in Barbados are not all congested. The major roads and a few what the people call rat-run roads in communities, the Pine and Lake. When you put those two together, you have a higher density of road, of traffic on the road. The traffic are being operated by single users. They're not trains on tracks, or they're not trains joined together, that when number 1 car moves, number 10 moves together. You have drivers with different attitudes, ages, perceptions, health conditions, health challenges. So that sometimes the congestion leads is a result of the person innate and characteristics and behavior different from the guy behind you and the guy in front. So when one guy is move off, the other guy is waiting to move off. In some cases, when one moves, one's moving like on tracks. So when we talk about having solutions for traffic congestion, we talk about providing more space so that persons can now have convenient spaces between them, one, yeah, or you stagger those times for traffic. So I want to move towards my main points: non-structural, non-construction approaches to traffic management. If you look at it in terms of economics, every car we import requires foreign exchange to purchase it. It requires foreign exchange to maintain it. So we can reduce our traffic by looking first at the larger vehicles that move people. You know, buses in one case, yes. But we have ZR vehicles on the road that are old. I see the same models about 25 years still on the road. It tells us that, but these are potentials for problems down the road. And some other like sardine cans. You can't, like some of the ZRs themselves are like sardine cans. You put persons into them that cannot move, with the stand up, they have to crouch over. And I said, people, the provide service to people who go into the health clinic and the doctor. We should move, I think I recommend that we move from those smaller vehicles to larger vehicles that have a higher payload. So in effect, those that take, say, 12 persons, there are vehicles in the island that can take 18, 20. We move in more persons with less traffic, and that's one approach. Some of the things I heard earlier are within non-structural approaches. So I want to move quickly just through some so I don't waste time, and just as I have them listed as I write them off. Discourage driving. We have school zones. If you discourage driving, I think the gentleman who spoke about the tracks, that's one measure. But school zones. In Barbados for some time, they talk about having schools by zones. If persons are going to schools by zones, they're living closer to where they go to school. And so it does not have a demand for moving persons to schools. Extra lanes. If you construct extra lanes, I agree with extra lanes over flyovers because you provide maybe in some cases, and again, flyovers may work, but the science have to drive it. We go flyover, take care. People say you're not going over the highway, you're allowing traffic to go over, but the map earlier showed that you have red spots on both sides in the same direction. So extra lanes on some of the roads that provide for it now, and I say now because from a land use plan perspective and forward planning, tag those low roads and start to look at the space required and get them under your land bank so that when you do them, whether now or delay them, you have that space to do the 4 lanes or 3 lanes. Because sometimes you do a 3 lane and you may have 2 lanes at one time in the morning and 2 out of town. But that's, again, the economics has to run with it. You have freight movements. Since 1985, I recall discussion on in Bridgetown, persons who delivering should deliver out of peak time. Why have we not done it? And we have to look again and go for it. These don't require construction. These are non-structural, viable options that are low cost. Now, they're not going to give you 20% of benefit, but when you do the sum of them, you may get 15, 20%. And with these, we need continual education and mode and signage. Because, again, people need to be reinforce the same points all the time. Pricing strategies.
Excuse me. We need to, I don't want to rush, but please be mindful that we have 25 questions.
Okay, last one.
So please,
yeah.
And I'm going to encourage you, if you can at least focus on one aspect.
Okay.
Because if you don't, we could very well be here till midnight.
Good.
Right? So
pricing,
please. Right?
Pricing strategy and technology.
But before I continue, for those of you, even if you have a question and you may want to leave, please note that you can forward your questions, your comments to information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb. Those that repeat that, information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb. And that is also for our online audience. Please wrap up, sir.
Yes. So let me move with technology. The number of technologies available now that weren't available before. You have electronic systems, you have cameras, but cameras have other utilities within the hardware and software, so that persons who are, retired could be registered and given a time to travel outside of peak time with an incentive, a pricing strategy, or a fiscal measure that allow them to travel in that time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any responses from members of the head table?
I think he did a very good summary. He's also a senior member of staff, so we will have a lot of chance to discuss these ideas, but very good ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on now to question number 7. Remember, make it very brief, all right?
Hi, good evening, everyone.
State your name, please.
My name is Daria Gonzalez, and I just came here today to firstly state the obvious, that traffic is caused by too many cars on the road. In Barbados, we have only 2 options, really, which are catching the bus or taking your own private vehicle. And because taking the bus is so unreliable, a lot of people have decided to purchase their own vehicle, and that causes all this congestion that we see on the road. And as other people have stated, I think that a solution would be to get more cars off of the road by offering other solutions for people who want to do their commute in other ways. For example, bicycle lanes. I think that bicycle lanes are something that are implemented in other countries, and somehow we have found that we can't implement it here. It's impossible. A lot of people try to say that there's no room for bicycle lanes in Barbados. We're not Europe. How can you talk about bicycle lanes if we don't have sidewalks? But I would say that we do not have room for the 180,000 vehicles that we have on the road right now. I think that if we keep on moving in this direction, we will only have more cars. What are we going to do in the next 5 years when we have 200,000 cars on the road and we're still in the same situation as we are now? I think that the only way we can solve this issue is if we make a change in our mindset and in our culture, which is moving towards bicycles or other forms of transportation, other alternatives. And also, I think that as pedestrians, people might say, oh, we don't have sidewalks. As pedestrians, I would feel a lot safer walking if there's a bicycle lane protecting me than walking next to a busy street full of fast-moving cars. Right, possible implementations, I would say in Paris, between the years of 2018 to 2023, they have undergone rapid urbanization of their bike lane system. So the approach that they've taken is to not have a bicycle lane on every single street, but if you look at their map, it looks more like a subway map. They've implemented a complex of bicycle routes, interlocking bicycle routes that allow commuters to get to where they need to be. So if this road or that road is not suitable for it, maybe we can find an alternative road. And also you can even consider converting smaller streets to one-way so that you can save the other lane for two-lane bicycle roads. I think that through these methods, we should aim towards both adults and children using bicycles as their commute. When I was in school, only one kid at my age, biked to school, and he was warned against it by the adults around him, saying that was too dangerous. So I think if we invest in protected lanes for these important commutes, going to schools, to supermarkets, these important locations, then we can encourage more people to take the bike. And lastly...
You can wrap up now?
Yes. Right, the final statement is just that we should stop investing so heavily in this car-only infrastructure. We are talking about additional lanes and flyovers, but this will make the road more hazardous to other persons and will discourage them from using alternatives. So our focus should be on solutions that work instead of pushing the problem further down the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm glancing to see if there's anyone in. All right. Be assured that all comments are noted. Minister? Jason?
Well, I must say you are on the right track relative to offering an alternate solution. In my many travels around, I've seen they've in Birmingham and Paris. I've seen them all, and it's about providing more choice. What they do in Europe, they provide greater choice. So it won't just be cars. It's about walking paths. We're talking about cycle lanes, subways. We're talking about trams. We provide greater choice for the user, so that they're less inclined to take to opt to single user vehicles. So that is something that yes, we are looking at. We've had a report from a consultant who has outlined a number of such options for us to use, and in that report we have considered a number of roads, particularly in the St. Michael area, Bridgetown area mainly, where we will convert to, in a sense, to include some bicycle lanes. That is quite possible, and we are currently going through the full plans, because those are just concept plans. So we are now going through the full plans to see how far we can take this. All right.
Thank you. We move on now to question 8.
Sorry, if you could also email or WhatsApp. What was the name of the young lady who just spoke? If you could also email or WhatsApp those points as well. That'd be great, thanks.
Just remember the WhatsApp number is 266-3780. 266-3780.
Thank you, my brother. Sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening to the panel and everybody here tonight. Question for the Chief Technical Officer. Do you all have a master plan for this whole project? A master plan? Because you're hearing a lot of things that need to be done, which requires joined-up thinking. So if we're going to put bike lanes in, which I actually passionately believe in, if we're going to build sidewalks, we've got narrow roads. If we've got pipelines under the roads that are going to need replacing, we've got to figure out whether we're going to build new roads before we fix what's underneath them, and whether we're going to build sidewalks to help contain roads from spreading out because there's no curb lines. Have we got anything like that in our thinking? Let me move on to another question then. I take it that flyovers are a fixed done deal, are they? Well, anybody can answer. Are flyovers a fixed done deal? Because that's what I heard from the Prime Minister in an address, that we're going to have flyovers. Is it a done deal?
The Prime Minister spoke. You heard the Prime Minister speak on the matter.
So it's a done deal, is it?
I'm waiting to hear the question.
I've asked the question, is it a done deal?
The Prime Minister spoke on the matter. The government had committed to
Well, I'll
the
take it that
flyover.
it's a done deal. I mean, I don't know about the rest of us. I don't want to see flyovers on the Barbadian skyline. For one particular reason, it's not going to work. It's not going to ease congestion, okay? Because driving behavior is going to want to find the easiest route through a problem. And everybody's going to do the same thing. And if those flyovers are meant to be designed to fix congestion, it's not, you've already heard it from one gentleman here, it's not going to work. I've grown up in, yeah, you can hear a British accent. I've grown up in Birmingham, a city of 1.1 million people, 103 square miles, and we don't have these kinds of problems. We focused a little bit on the main highway. Can I assume that that's where some of the highways would be built? Along the highways to create more traffic flow, is that right? Yeah? Okay. Surely there is a cheaper solution. For example, smart roundabouts and using a bit of paint. One of the problems when I come back from Warrens down to Christchurch, I get to a couple of the roundabouts and they are just jammed up. And it's not the volume of traffic that's the problem. It's road etiquette. You know why? Because people are joining roundabouts when they can't get off them. And that's preventing people from their left side from joining the roundabout to carry on their journey. All you've got to do is paint some boxes around those junction areas and say, keep clear, put up traffic lights that help regulate the traffic flow and for pedestrians as well, and I'll bet you what, you'll see improved traffic flow. Would you agree with that? Anybody agree with that? All right. You asked for solutions. You've told us in your presentation what the problems are. We all know what the problems are. We drive the roads every day. Maybe those are some solutions that you might like to consider. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. May I remind you of the email address, information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb. The WhatsApp number is 266-3780. We move swiftly now to question number 9.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry, my name is Wayne Hoy. I live in the Warrens area, and there's one of the biggest problem areas in Barbados as far as I'm concerned, as far as traffic is concerned. One of the things I want to look at here is the contributing factors to why we have so much traffic congestion on the island. And, you know, a number of persons mentioned before, the number of vehicles that are on the road. They have like the accidents and breakdowns that you constantly get, road construction and other type of construction, road repairs and maintenance, garbage collection, utility works, deliveries, public transportation. Like most of the roads do not have like the bus lanes or laybys for the bus to divert to, so therefore you have constant stopping, like every few feet of a bus stopping to pick up or drop off passengers. Then there's also the school drop-offs and pick-up, you know, and someone mentioned earlier, you know, not having like a designated area for these persons to drop. But one of the things I know is when parents dropping off their students to these schools, you know, it's not like they're ready to get out the vehicle. They have their backpacks in the trunk of the car and all these things. They take all this thing, you know, to move from that location. One of the other things also is the location of pedestrian crossing and the heavy use of some of them in some particular areas. Public and private events also to contribute to the traffic congestion, and also the roadside vending and parking. Those are the things I believe that we need to manage or find solutions to manage these particular occurrences, right? Some of my solutions or recommendations, whereas I believe in recent past that there have been the use of the insurance companies to attend to accidents and stuff, and that to me was a good initiative. However, one of the things that is the timeliness of dealing with it, that you still find people still on the road and not moving off from the main road onto a side road or something in order to deal with these issues. Right. And the other thing that from some of these accidents, you also have like debris, which might be broken glass or parts of the vehicle on the road. I would like to suggest that the insurance company or any authority who attends to the accidents walk with equipment also to clean up the area, so that there is, you know, you don't have to drive around or whatever. You can continue your care path and start impeding traffic on either side of the road. Designated one-way lanes, another solution, and not only for the purpose of bikes and stuff like that, but if we go through some of these streets, they're very, what we consider narrow. They don't have sidewalks, they don't have drainage or anything like that. But if you designate them as one-way lanes, then maybe you can implement your sidewalks. You still have space then to put your sidewalks and drainage and other utilities or so that might be required. Expanding some of the roads to multiple lanes, as a few persons suggested. When we look at, say, for example, a road that was recently done, the Carmichael Boarded Hall Road, that was one that could have easily been, 4 lanes could have been installed in that area. That area you can look at too, Waterford, could be also designed a 4-lane. And speaking of Waterford, we have the National Stadium being constructed, and there's no information of how the roads around that area would be allocated and how persons will be able to use them once the stadium is completed. And therefore, what are the solutions for that entire area where the stadium is being constructed? Because now we have to make the right turn to go to Station Hill, which always causes congestion and stuff. And then you have at the other end the geriatric hospital. And to me, there was no vision in terms of, because before that hospital built, there should have been dedicated 4 lanes in that Waterford area. One of the other areas I believe that during certain time periods where they should not have traffic making a turn is right the Hospital Junction by the roundabout to the Kelsey supermarket, that persons who want to go into that area should go on the Bell, up to the Bell Junction, turn into the Bell, come to Lower Estate, and then return to Hospital turning. That will ease some of the traffic from there, but you should only allow the bus transportation to actually make the turn by Kelsey supermarket during peak times. I think that's one of the areas that always have a buildup, especially in the afternoon times, right? One of the other things there.
Okay, so you ready to wrap up, sir?
No, I got a lot to say.
I might have to instruct you to do so then.
There's also, as far as road construction is concerned, there's need for better signage and stuff. And I spoke to Mr. Humphrey about this there recently. We're in this is the Edge Hill King Garden area where they actually, C.O. Williams doing some work there. And you would drive, I remember one day I had to drive into that area then to realize there were diversions. There was no signage from the direction that I was coming from, but there was a divergence on the other side. So the communication, and the communication is not just about, your social media posts or your radio announcements, but it also comes to where signage is put ahead of that construction area. Because when you come in, if you come in, say, from Jackson Mirror and you're going to that area, you should know ahead of time that there's going to be construction in that area. Physical signage saying that, you might need to divert here or choose an alternate route or whatever and stuff like that, so people can make mental decisions before they actually enter some of these areas. And that thing, as far as road construction and repair is concerned, we should go to doing some of this work at night, where people sleep in or whatever and stuff like that, and you can close off major roads, do your work, and by 6 o'clock in the morning, they open up, and you're ready to go, rather than having to come into all these construction areas, which is also dangerous, because I don't understand why you're doing road construction and you have heavy traffic traveling along where there are workers who are physically walking in and out of little areas or behind cans, whatever, to do their work. And that is something that I believe that we need to look at.
Okay, so we need you to wrap up now, please. Just be mindful that
Also,
there's so many other questions to be posed.
One of the other
all right?
things, as I say, I live in the Warrens area, and the traffic, as I remember seeing there in the video, the traffic going from the Polyclinic down to Green Hill is always stalled because of the bus stop by the Polyclinic and the bus stop by the drink distributor. Though you need people to have some proper bus lane or something like that, or create a bus hub in the area where the buses can go terminate or pick up people or whatever and stuff, and then move from that particular location rather than having to stop along the road. Because there's not much that you can do in some of these areas because of the existing structures that are there. And these are not like a little chattel house that can easily move or be relocated. These massive concrete structures in some of these areas that you cannot move, say, well, it's got to move, and you can actually have the space then to widen the roads and stuff. Also in the Warren area, I would like to see a elevated footpath between the two roundabouts, the Warrens roundabout and the Inchcape roundabout, because people always crossing those roads up and down, and it always slows down the traffic, and a lot of near misses there too as well for people being struck. So if we can construct I know it doesn't cost money, but a footpath that has stairs, elevator, and escalators for the disabled, then that can do on both sides. So it will come like a triangle, the center and stuff, where you go up, you go across, and you come back down the other side, either side, which takes you to the other thing. There's some of my solution. There are more, but the time is limited, and I would email or come to another meeting.
Thank you so much.
By the way, why was that not a meeting at Lester Vaughan? Why had to travel from Warrens to come out here? Lester Vaughan should have been a location for one of these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is...
Sorry, 1 second. Just remember,
on,
we're doing 4. So we can't do it at every school, but there's one next week Wednesday in St. Philip, then there's one at St. Michael's School, and then there's one in the north. So we're trying to touch the different points in the island.
All right, sir, state your name and
Sure.
go ahead with your
Good
question.
evening. My name is Dario Aline. And I'm not here to say, well, this is a particular solution that we need to implement. But what I want to say is, whatever we decide to do in terms of traffic management, it has to be based on data, right? I spent many, many years working in that environment. So oftentimes, you may see a solution in your mind, but in reality, you really need information in order to make the most optimal decision, right? So when it comes to traffic management, it's all a problem of optimization. So what I really want to know is, have there been any operations research studies done, any traffic engineering studies done to make the determination, for example, the flyover? When I first saw this consultation, I was quite happy to come here to participate. But maybe a day or two after, I saw that there was a decision made on flyovers. And I said, well, that's a really big deal. Deciding on flyovers is not something you just decide on at a whim. So what I really want to encourage you, right, to do going forward, that you have to make your decisions based on data. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Various types of software to be utilized that to develop the signal time solutions and so forth, right?
Thank you very much. We move on now to question number 11.
So while you wait, the gentleman from Britain, so, well, I can't remember the name, I don't want to be disrespectful to you. No, him. Steve? Steve, we could talk after this, but my friend who's listening online tells me to ask you to explain Spaghetti Junction in Birmingham, which I am looking at the pictures now. It is a whole lot of flyovers. So you said there's no such problem in Birmingham, but clearly you don't know spaghetti. But it's there. But it's there. Okay. I'm just saying, you said there was no such problem, but you already had built the thing in the 70s. No, we could talk about it after. I just wanted to know that my friend who's listening online asked me to ask you if you forgot Spaghetti Junction, which is a major set of flyovers.
All right, thank you. Continue, sir. Your name?
Hi, good night. My name is Pedro Godin. When I first heard about this consultation, I said, you know what, I'm going to put my 2 cents in. Now, I live in the United Kingdom managing a bus garage called National Express. Bus garage. National Express. In the UK. I live in Barbados now. I came back to Barbados and I watched the infrastructure here, and I think it's just, if we could fix the bus problem. Now we got a whole team that in the UK that have been calling me and said, Pedro, we can fix this for you now, because we just need to see some data. We just need to fix especially with we need a bus lane, and the bus lane could double as a cycle lane, so buses can just pass through and bypass most of this traffic. Not in all areas, but in areas where heavy traffic is. Then you need a dynamic scheduling, and also where the consumer knows when the bus is coming. So that is pivotal. If a consumer knows that the 8 o'clock bus is 5 minutes late, they can check their app and see we got all of that. Then to deal with all these ZR drivers that drive so ridiculously on the road, we've created, I'm not going to talk everything here, but we got something that, whereas it restricts them from driving these ridiculous driving behaviors, honestly, is horrendous. But I came here just to see you. I literally got a proposal in my hand that I can hand over to you, and we can fix this. I guarantee you we can fix this.
All right, thank you very much. Now, this is what this consultation is about. Offering your solutions and, of course, any assistance as it relates to your resource is concerned. A resource obviously comes in your services, perhaps even your financial resource if possible. But while that is being done, thank you very much, Pedro. May I remind you of the email address information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb and the WhatsApp number 266-3780. All right, let's move on now to question number 12, sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lalu Hanneman. I live in Dover. Lalu Hanneman. I live in Dover, just off Maxwell Road, about 150 yards away from Top Rock Roundabout. In the mornings, to get to Top Rock Roundabout, it takes me literally 25 minutes by car because of the same situation that the brother from Birmingham raised. People are parking on the roundabout, in effect. People coming from the Graham Hall direction, wanting to go down St. Lawrence, by St. Lawrence Primary School, which is an issue that the brother here mentioned earlier. They're blocking up the whole roundabout. So people like myself who wants to go right and continue along the highway, we can't. And as the brother from Birmingham said on this point, there's a simple solution. In many countries, they have what they call a grid system. There's a penalty for stopping on a roundabout, unless, of course, you have an emergency, the car is broken down or something. And you're fined if you stop on the roundabout. You have cameras, and they pick up the registration number of the cars. You don't enter the roundabout unless you can exit the roundabout. It's simple. It would mean the same issue that exists at Hoddesdale will be dealt with. You can't go and stop on a roundabout unless your car is broken down or some such. The second solution I had in mind was what is practiced in many parts of the world, including Caracas in Venezuela. They have a system. It's ridiculous, as the brother pointed out. I think his name is Mr. Seeley. We have too many cars in Barbados, and unfortunately, I'm one of them, but I had to, out of reluctance, get a car. I'm a lawyer. I have to get to Horse Hill Court. I used to take the bus. I would take up the 7 o'clock bus to Bridgetown. 8 o'clock bus, there's supposed to be a bus to go up to Bashaba. It doesn't come. The 9 o'clock bus doesn't come. The 10 o'clock bus doesn't come. The ticket office doesn't know when the next bus is. So I end up having to take a taxi all the way to Horse Hill. And this happens on a regular basis. So reluctantly, I've had to get a car. But the solution is to reduce the cars. And I see some cities, as I said, like Caracas, they have a system whereby cars that have odd numbers go on a certain day on the roads, and cars with even numbers go on a certain day. They rotate it. So people are forced to carpool. There's nothing wrong with carpooling. And right away, 180,000 cars on the road would be reduced to 90,000. So there's an easy way to deal with it, straightforward. I agree with cycling and all of that. I myself cycle, but the easy way to deal with it is to ensure that on a certain day, and you have the list, like what we had during COVID in terms of surnames going to the supermarkets, cars with different registration numbers are allowed on the road on certain days. And that's the solution. Right away, 90,000 cars on the road.
Thank you very much.
So, but I take the point. I think the problem that you mentioned and the one that Steve from Birmingham mentioned was also similar at the traffic lights. Because sometimes you get by the traffic light, cars inch forward, the lights change, but the cars can't turn because the road's blocked. So I think you're proposing, I think they do it in Trinidad. If you can't make it fully cross the road, you don't start the journey. The problem is, though, that's nice in places, but Barbadians do not let you out. So we all know that we're complaining for a lot of the behaviors that we practice. Because when you get to the roundabout, if you don't start inching out, sometimes you feel as if you can't get out. And then when you get by the lights, you're kind of forcing yourself out. So I take it as an etiquette behavior point too. Because a lot of those behaviors, and sometimes you're in your car and you say to yourself, come on, man. Now you know for sure you can't make this, but you block the road. That's why people end up angry on roadways. So we take the point that perhaps, I think in Trinidad they call them wet spots or something, where you basically can't go into those spots unless you can make the full crossing. So I think we could do it, the yellow box system, we could do it here for both the roundabouts and the traffic lights.
Thank you very much. We move on now to question number 13.
Hi, good evening. My name is Richard Gittins. So Steve, he has a valid point. I too have lived in England, worked in a number of countries. There really needs to be a comprehensive national consultation and a comprehensive management plan. And these things don't take 4 sittings. They go over, in some cases, years before they are implemented. Everyone here has made some very valid points, but all of these things need to be in one cohesive plan. That can't happen over 4 sittings. So like him, if it is a done deal, then this whole thing is just performative. If we are here really to take on board the proposals that are being given to people, that are being presented by people, then this process needs to be a lot longer. It needs to be more comprehensive. It needs to be far more in-depth than it is, and not just be indifferent to someone that you don't necessarily like either the accent or what they're saying at the point in time. As it relates to flyovers, I too don't like flyovers for Barbados because they take up a lot of time and space with on-ramps, off-ramps, feeder roads. It takes a lot to implement a flyover system. And right now, we don't even maintain the roads that are at the ground level. So what is going to happen when the drainage isn't working on the flyover? What's going to happen when the off-ramp drainage isn't working? What's going to happen when the on-ramp drainage isn't working? What's going to happen when the concrete gets in a pothole? What's going to happen when the steel girders are failing? You can hit in the pothole and end up in Salters. You know, we really got to think seriously about these things and not just jump on board there. There are a lot more holistic things that we can do to come up with a problem, to come up with a solution to ease the traffic congestion. And reducing the number of cars isn't necessarily going to work because, one, people do not trust the public transport system. So if they know that the 515 bus is going to come, if there's a scheduled 515 bus, but it isn't going to come till 8, 9, 10 o'clock, then they ain't catching that bus. They can go and buy a car. So these are things that we really need to look at and consider. As it relates to some of the other people that spoke about the heavy usage of the oversized vehicles for the construction industry, I'm firmly planted in the construction industry. We have gone from 8-meter trucks to now 20-meter trucks. And the problem isn't necessarily the size of the road, the size of the vehicle. The MTW needs to rethink the asphalt mix design. The fines in it is significantly small. They need to increase the overall fines, the size of the aggregate size. So we like smooth roads, yes, but when you are using, as we have inherited in this country, coral, the more you drive on coral, the smoother it gets. The more slippery the roads become, the oil rises to the surface. That is a problem in and of itself. So we really need to look at these things seriously. And if we mash someone's corns, if we affect someone, tell them sorry, but this is how it got to be. Because we can't be comparing ourselves to Singapore, yet still be doing the same old, same old. Singapore is the same size as us. They've only did some landmass here recently, but it's the same size practically as Barbados. The leaders came out in the same educational system. We need to make some of the same decisions. But if we are 6 degrees away of separation from a colleague and we don't want to hurt the colleague feelings, then we ain't gonna get any further. So there are a lot of technical solutions that we all know. There are roads in this country that need to do over because the porpoising in the road is significant. But because of who built the road, the conditions under the road, the conditions of that specific road, you have this porpoising that road should have never been passed, but it has, and it hasn't been rectified. So we really need to do better. And unless we do better, we are going to stay in the same situation that we are in. No one here wants a flyover. But like I said, if it is already a done deal and if this is performative, then we're just wasting time here. Good night.
Thank you very much.
So I didn't get your name, sorry. Richard. So I take your point. They're all valid points. But I suspect, so far I've heard people say widen the roads, don't widen the roads. I've heard people say we have too many cars, and then you've said it make no difference if we trouble the cars. We've heard, but yeah, I agree, that's what I'm saying, but all this feeds into a holistic plan, right? Like, this is not to say that this is going to be, that this has been the only conversation the ministry has had. You must know that the ministry has been compiling data for months and for weeks and for years. And you must also know that the ministry is going to continue, there are going to be meetings privately with the contractors, the construction industry, the suppliers of material. There's been a whole set of consultations, and those meetings are, let me finish. So there's going to be a whole set of meetings, and there's going to be a whole set of conversation. It's not going to be a one-off. And then the other thing is Barbados is not a one-problem society. It's not going to be a one-solution response, right? So it's not that we're going to do a flyover at the expense of widening a road where we need to widen the road, or reducing cars if we determine we need to reduce cars, or stopping people from turning right where that's necessary, or having the layway for the children. All those things are going to be part of the response. But the problem is that we might say we're going to do this and people focus on that. That is not the only thing. You would have heard a number of things being proposed tonight, all of which are going to feed into our response when there is a response. So it wouldn't be fair to suggest that it's going to only be that. It's going to be that and a number of other things that we believe combined. For example, when we widen the road there by Combamere, to allow traffic to turn right, cars can go straight. If we determine that we need to have there by the road between Canewood and Lears, if you need to have a roundabout there, maybe, we don't know. If we do that, we also know we could ease traffic there. So I'm saying that there's a number of things, but to call it performative is a little unfair, because the reality is that we really want to hear from the public to be able to determine a number of the solutions. Now, it would be also equally unwise for me to come to this meeting and tell you that we haven't thought of things, that we haven't already tried things. This ministry has been trying things forever. So the government will do, but it would be an irresponsible government for us not to come and to say, this is what we are thinking, this is what we are doing. Can we also get your input as we try to plan out further things? So it's not a case where we do this and nobody else's opinion matters. That's all I wanted to say.
All right.
Let me say this. Yes, I see that everyone is focusing on the flyovers. But as we were really trying to say, there are other solutions in different areas that we are looking at. The only road in Barbados is not that one road where flyovers is going. So there are other solutions that need to take place. That's where the flyover is supposed to go. All I'm saying is there are other solutions. We have looked at different areas. We have looked at different solutions, and that's why we're here. Because we want to see if those other solutions make sense. Yeah?
All right, okay, all right. We're going to move on to question number 14.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ronald Bess. I'm from Christchurch. My question is really for the ministers, especially you, Mr. Humphreys. We need to look at this problem a bit differently, and I think we should consider reducing the demand for tarmac. The demand for tarmac.
What? The demand for?
The tarmac. We've had comments that during the school holidays, traffic flows, right? I've experienced whereby we've got to go to government offices in Warrens Pine, Waterworks. Why can't some of those functions be moved out where people live, or where they shop? Oistins, Spice Down, 6 Roads. That will reduce the demand. Can we speak to, well, employers about having staggered start times and finishing times? 7 till 9, rather than everyone starting at 8 and finishing at 4. We heard about schools. I've heard of children leaving Charnots to go to Grantley Adams School. I asked, why? What's so special about Grantley Adams School? Nothing. Why are we doing that? Now, people have got to either use a car or use it public transport. Public transport, there is plenty of room for improvement. Very often, the buses don't go where people live. So there's no reach. The timetable is not reliable. So people just have to drive their cars. And we know that isn't going to work. When it comes to flyover, I've seen many flyovers. I've not seen any that I would regard as being attractive. We do not want to discourage or remind the tourists that when they come to Barbados and see the flyover, remind them of the metropolis they're running away from. Okay? That's all I want to say. Good night.
Thank you very much, sir. May I remind you of the email address, information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb, and the WhatsApp number 266-3780. And I've offered you this information so that if in your questioning you recognize that your line of question has already been offered by someone, and you can then, of course, look at a different question, because you may have more than one question, then do so all in the interest of time. Question number 15. Question number 15, the individual present is visually impaired. So what we will do, the mic is, you have the opportunity to speak from that position. Okay, Cam?
Yeah, good night to everyone. Without people, we don't need no transportation. Therefore, transportation is an integral, people are an integral part of transportation. Why I say that? Since 2018, I was sitting on the Deighton Griffith School board. And there's a big problem up here, especially in terms of students getting to school. For instance, there's a service that runs on the ABC highway. It comes from Oistins. And this is not only a problem for the school children, but it's also a problem to elderly persons. As a result of a bus coming from Oistins, when the school children travel on that bus has to pass the school, and the children will now exit down by Koiman. And then they have to get and walk right back up here. Also, there are elderly persons in this area, in the Kingsland, Wharton area, coming from Oistins, especially when they go to the polyclinic or maybe to shop in Oistins. When they get off the bus, they have to get off down there. It's a problem with them walking back up. This question is to the Transport Board. What can you do to solve this problem? It's a problem, and I want to offer a solution. Now, I thought about having a lay-by on that side of the road coming down. And they say it can't work. I thought about when the bus comes from Oistins, it could go right up to the Newton roundabout and loop and come back down through Lodge Road, through Kingsland, where children can disembark just outside the school. And then the same thing when the bus is coming up. Many children get down by Koiman. Sometimes they have to sit and wait to get transportation to come here or walk. Because sometimes the St. Patrick bus doesn't run properly either. So it's a big problem. And it is something that the transport can work on. And I hope that it can be corrected. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Granville Carter, sorry.
Question number 16? Or is that the, okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so good night, everybody. Thank you so much for the question.
Put the mic and also state your name and perhaps your connection.
All right, good night to everyone. Thank you so much for your question. My name is Fabian Wharton, CEO of Transport Board. I'll begin by saying what we intended to do at the beginning of those services. Those services going up ABC Highway were designed as express services, connecting Oistins to Speightstown to stop people from catching buses and going to Bridgetown, and they have to go from Bridgetown into Speightstown. And then the connection, we recognize people wanted to get from Whole Town all the way up to the ABC Highway into Oistins, and even beyond, all the way up to Bayfield. So that was the reasons those buses were built in. So running time is critical to those buses. What was described by the gentleman is a discussion we have had internally already. Our solution was that a gate could have been placed, if you know the school well, because they're going to watch football there regularly. When you walk down the side, you can put a gate there, and the children can enter through that gate and go up on the side. The only difference is that for adults that may be going short into Kingston, they can't take the ABC, they will have to take the St. Patrick's buses as opposed to using the ABC. If I'm reading the thing correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm saying that I understand what you're saying, but persons that are coming from Oistins, right? Like elderly persons that have to attend the polyclinic and stuff like that. And you know the hill that is there that they got to walk over. And I'm saying, I understand what you're saying, but I think that a better solution can be offered.
Just for clarity, the Oistins Hill isn't in, agree? So you can't, the size of the road, etc., does not allow for the buses to come up there, okay? So that's the first thing you gotta look at. But I do understand your concern in terms of the distance. But the way how the road is designed and the turning radius for the buses, that makes that area a little tricky, right? But by and large, what we have done as a board, and this is not only for your instance, is that we had instances where from Oistins going into St. John, etc., people trying to get to polyclinics, etc., we made additional connections. And then we also have out-of-town services originating at 6 Roads and going into Gawhill and those areas. So I'm not saying to you that everything is perfect. I'm not saying to you that modeling a bus system will get every single circumstance correct. But what I'm saying to you is that we have done a lot of little changes in the last 2 to 3 years in relations to improving the connections outside of point A into Bridgetown, then Bridgetown to point B. Okay? But I do understand what you're saying in terms of that small area there, but there's very little wiggle room in that at the moment. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We move on now to question number 16.
Good evening. My name is Charmaine St. John, and I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all these big new developments in terms of hotels, we can't have every hotel have a zebra crossing across the road. On the South Coast, we have about, I don't know how many they are now, but too many. They should be made to put in overheads for their staff and all of the deliveries. Because you can't have a hotel on one side of the road and all the services on the other in the main road and confusing everything. And right now, you need to go and paint some black over some of those crossings because you've got too many at the same hotel. The second one is the airport roundabout. If we just make it a little wider, the people from St. Philip could get to St. Philip without having to wait for the people that are going to the airport. All you have to do is cut the roundabout on both sides and make it 2 lanes. The third one is we need to let everybody know to signal in the roundabouts because we need to know where they're going. All right? The third one is 1 lane is slow traffic, 1 lane is fast traffic on a highway. Could we put up some signs so people know what they're supposed to be doing? So we either educate our people on how to deal with the highway, or we're in the same position we are in right now, where people do what they like, and then other idiots have to try and pass them out and crash. Another thing is the ZRs. They have the brightest lights on the road. They drive at 20 kilometers an hour. I mean, this Kildare, we need to stop them, fine them. When they get 6 fines, they lost the license for a year because something has to be done about them. I'm a South Coast girl and I know about it. It is painful. All right, and drive-throughs. I love them, but they block up the whole road in every direction. So we either, particularly with the ones in Oystons, maybe we have to bring them in from Granny's car park or do something. But right now, they are blocking up the whole South Coast. Okay, that's about it. I'll write the rest.
Thank you very much. And in doing so, remember the email address, information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb. Or if you will, you can send your WhatsApp message to 266-3780.
I take your point, ma'am. I think you made some good points, particularly that drive-through. I never understood it, especially going into Oystons. You wait, there's KFC, there's Chefette, you're waiting just to go straight. It's impossible. You're catering for like 2% of the 100%. So I agree. I don't know how we give permissions, but I do think going forward, or if we could change it, we have to divert them to come on off of some of the minor roads. I'm told we don't have a fast lane and a slow lane on the highway, so you're not going to be able to get that particular signage. And we have here the Director of the Transport Authority. I'm going to ask you to say a few words about people's concerns about ZRs, because this is now the 3rd time I've heard it. But just in terms of our general management approach, and I think the question specifically was in relation to the lights and the fact that the persons are driving so slow. So I think the point she's making is that the lights are very bright and they're moving so slow, so you have to endure the very bright light for a very long time. So you could talk about some of the things I know you implemented particularly for this area as well.
Good evening, Ruth Holder, Director of Transport Authority.
quite a bit of mention has been made about the ZRs, the ZR culture, et cetera, et cetera. We practically know what we can expect. We know what is happening. I think the majority of ZR drivers, minibus drivers, are aware of what the Transport Authority has implemented recently. So last year, we took the opportunity to meet with almost every owner of the ZR drivers based on the routes that they travel. So we met with the group from Silver Sands, the group from Fair Valley, et cetera, et cetera. So we did the entire country, met with all of the owners. We made them aware of what we were going to do, what our plans were, how we plan to implement stuff. Coming out of all of that, we continued to speak with them, realized that some behavior patterns weren't changing. So in December, we started the process of suspending permits, both for the drivers' permits, and the owners' permits in some instances. That is taking some fruit. It is not as effective as we would like it to be, but we intend to continue that process. So going forward, I think they're quite aware of what we're doing. We rely on the public quite a bit to help us. Our staffing capacity cannot manage all of the ZRs that we have out there, but we're getting videos from the public. Those videos are helping us. We're getting WhatsApp messages. Those are helping us. Lots of people will go on the call-in program, but what they are reluctant to do is to come and present their case. What we say to people is, you don't have to tell us who you are. Send us the video footage, make sure it is date stamped, make sure it is time, that we can see if the location is not clear enough. Give us information on the location, and then we can take action. But we have been taking action. We're getting some assistance from the insurance companies, so it is taking fruit. We're benefiting. It is quite ironic, and I want to say here, is that last year, December, our first group of ZR vehicles that we banned were for those going through St. Lawrence Gap. And it was quite ironic that the same situation that happened a few days ago, where the guy was coming through a one-way street on St. Lawrence Gap, caused an accident right there and then. So even though we're trying to do stuff, even though we're doing things, it is taking its time, but be assured that the Transport Authority is taking action. What I want to say also is that mass transit, as much as we're getting some pushback against mass transit, in general, I think people need to understand what mass transit is supposed to do. As it is right now, we need a fully regulatory organization to handle the PSV operations. Not only ZRs and minibuses, but taxis, tour coaches, maxi taxis, hired cars. So we need to have the fully regulatory organization to handle those aspects. As I said, we don't have the full capacity right now, but mass transit will give us that capacity to be able to enforce some of the rules and regulations that we absolutely need to. So we're dependent on the public, again, to continue to share your feedback, share your information, share your videos, whatever you can do to help us, to help curb the behavior. We rely on the public to do it. So with that, I thank you. Sorry. Okay. Wait, one second before you do that. We're also looking at how compliance officers. Again, as I said, we have a staff complement. I didn't say this before. We have a staff complement of 37 people. They tend only to work within our terminals. We need to have masses on the street. And with that, we're looking towards having compliance officers in the same mass transit who we can deploy on the hot spots on the street. We all know where the hot spots are. I won't go through the entire list, but we know where the hot spots are. So therefore, once we have compliance officers, we can put them out there. We can also have the assistance of the police cameras, et cetera, to help us compile the information that we want in order to take the appropriate action. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Move on to question number 17.
Hi, good evening, ministers.
Just where's the mic, please? Where's the mic? All right.
Good evening, ministers and fellow attendees. Name is David Defamation. I have 3 points, ending with a technical question for Jason. And first, I'd just like to say I've worked most of my life in Bridgetown and lament what it has become. First with an architectural firm, then with an engineering company, and finally with one of Barbados' leading companies, which owned a lot of property in Bridgetown. I've seen it evolve over those 30 years, it's depressing. I'm looking forward to its revitalization. Traffic is one of the things that I've seen deteriorate over the years. I remember when I used to leave work at 4, get home at 4:30. By the time I was no longer working with that company, 2.5 years ago, I was leaving work at 4 and getting home at 5. So it's gotten worse. One of the points that I would like to make with respect to Bridgetown, and the gentleman from Ballantyne raised it very briefly but earlier, is the Gemmitts Lane Junction. I have raised this point with authorities before. I got inconsiderate pushback, which I was not pleased with. And the scheduling, the timing of the lights at Gemmitts Lane has always boggled my mind. For 30 years, it's boggled my mind. And the response I have always found to be inadequate and ill-considered. At Gemmitts Lane, I would typically leave my office, which was in Lower Broad Street, drive, get as far as the fire station, no longer there, take the left turn, go through the little road next to Golden Square, jump into Nelson Street, turn left at Wellington Street, go to the end of Wellington Street, take a right, come back, and the car that I typically would have left at the junction by the fire station, in most instances probably would not have moved 100 yards, but I'd be on Bay Street heading out. I raised the point about the signaling. Pushback was not something I liked, but I got it. So I asked the question, is it that the opinion of road users is not valuable? Because I got a pushback on a technical point with respect to the ring road that was created in Greater Bridgetown to facilitate traffic when users of the road could find themselves in a situation where you could either sit for half an hour or spend 2 minutes doing some creative driving and save yourself 25 minutes. That's gasoline. That's one of our major inputs as demonstrated by the minister in the budget. And I find those things to be, if you have practical knowledge from persons, users of the road and persons who have some technical basis, absorb it, accept it. Do not push back against it. That's first of my two other points really are smaller points which relate to the issue of traffic management. And I'm not opposed to any solution which creates better flow. I use the roads a lot. I travel mostly on the south, but I do travel as infrequently as possible to the west because of the traffic situation. And I asked the question, if we're going to have flyovers, are we going to reduce the lanes at the flyovers to one other lane? I need to understand that. So you have 2 lanes now. One lane will depart left onto the other road, the highway that crosses the ABC highway. Is there going to be only one other lane where the flyover lane takes the 2 center lanes in either direction?
Relative to flowers, we will have specific consultation on that when that time is coming, which is going to be soon from now, but we will have a specific consultation on that, all right?
All right, so the answer is not, we don't know yet. So my understanding as a road user and my use of the road says that if you do a flyover and leave a single lane on the outside of it, which manages everything else, you're still going to get the backups going down Hobbiesville. You're going to get them going back down 2 Mile Hill. It's going to happen. So I suggest if you're going to do the flyovers, you still need 2 lanes, which will help manage the traffic. I understand because not everyone is, not every situation will allow the traffic to exit the highway. Someone may want to I'm just asking in instances where you want to get back onto the highway and you may need a feeder lane to get back onto the main highway. It could be a tricky situation, I understand, but just consider that there are instances where that lane, if it becomes jammed, needs to be at least 2 lanes wide so that you have emergency vehicles that can still pass, breakdowns that can happen. So I'm just saying you still need 2 lanes, even if only one is an active drive-in lane. Does that make sense? Right, okay. My third point, which is also in relation to flyovers or any other type of system that is introduced. I noticed the Prime Minister mentioned tunneling. I found that was interesting because it's less of a scar on the landscape, and there are some areas where tunneling is possible. One is at Norman Isles, where there's a large landmass if you're exiting town to the left, and there's an equal large landmass on the opposite side of the road where you could do a wide turn, facilitating not container trucks, but panel vans, larger vehicles that could off-ramp as they come up, go under, pop out the other side, and merge with the traffic, which obviously there will be some management issues there, but merge with the traffic, taking the left turn off the ABC highway onto that same road. So there will be some challenges there, but that is one instance where elevational change is possible. I was excited hearing the Prime Minister say it because it causes less of a scar on the landscape, but obviously it involves a lot more technical work than possibly a flyover does. And that's the end of my points.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Question number 19.
I just wanted to make the point that, as a quick response to what was said, that we don't listen. We listen, we value your comments, and that's perhaps the reason why we're here tonight. Just bear in mind that, yes, we've come with suggestions, we've gotten directives already from the Prime Minister, but those are just one or two tools within the arsenal that we'll use to really wrestle this congestion to the ground. Tonight, for example, I've heard a number of suggestions, some of which I've heard before, some of which were new, some of which were novel, and some of which I think could be tailored to our circumstance. So it's not just one issue. We're really here to hear you, and believe it or not, some of your ideas are fantastic and will be taken on board as we go forward within in-house, as we look to really respond to this scourge that is road congestion on our roads. I just want to make that point quickly before you start. And while I have the mic in my hand, I want to respond to something you said also that I found was quite helpful, in that we also need to revisit the designs for the asphalt that we use on our roads. Yes, we have a coral-based aggregate that we've used, but I'm sure that we have going forward, in order to build in that resilience that you speak to, that would help our roads to really hold up under the strain. We would have to look at new designs going forward that would make that tarmac, that asphalt, a bit more resilient and a bit more robust and able to take the pressure and the weight of our roads. It was a wonderful suggestion, and we're going to take it on board.
Thank you very much. We'll go forward, sir.
Hello, good evening. Know that the gentleman said that he listened. Sorry, my name is Leandre Knight. Leandre Knight. All right, and I want to start off before I get into my points. That the gentleman said that he listens. I think that, everybody can agree with me here that you've listened to so many people come out here saying that they don't really support this idea of flyovers. I hope that you listen to my voice as I say it to you, that I also I wouldn't want to say condemn, but I do not encourage the idea of flyovers. Adding more road capacity, and at the end of the day, just encourages more cars, which we end up in the frame place to begin with. But before I get into that long point, I've split my ideas into short/medium-term ideas and some long-term ideas that we can take forward into the future. The first one that was briefly mentioned by, I think, Mr. Scott, or I think he left already, but painting yellow penalty boxes in the road. This is the simplest and easiest way you can get something done. It takes a gallon bucket of paint and a brush, and you put that up. So that's an easy thing you can knock out there. Second point, expanding park and ride, and also upgrading terminal spots for buses. We've said this over and over again. I submitted a proposal. This was pre-COVID times, right? This is 6 years on from COVID, we're almost here, about how for less than $5 million, you can transform public transportation in this country by implementing some simple things. One, tracking on every bus. You might not be able to, the bus might not come on time, but you might be able to know when it's coming. Just knowing can impact and change your behavior to public transportation. And that's something that can be easily done for under $5, $10, $20 million. We spent $35 million on Carry Festi the other day. That $35 million could have been gone into improving and putting actual tracking on buses. When you put tracking on buses, you can also implement contactless payment as well for the same buses. Contactless payment. That will either be direct integration with a Visa or MasterCard system, or you can purchase a bus pass, you top it up, like you have in other modern transportation networks. And another point is free transfers on buses within a certain time limit. That is one of the biggest cost of living barriers for people is the cost of a vehicle. If you can have free transfers on buses within, let's say, an hour and a half, you can take 2 buses within an hour and a half, you get to your place. That reduces the cost for so many people. And comparison on the transport side, I think it will not be as much as a cost burden for the Barbados Transport Board, considering that is one of the biggest SOE, one of the biggest negative revenue earners for SOEs. I think is like number 2 after the oil company. And when you integrate these 3 points, you can start to bring PSC service vehicles under this thing. We have one of the most powerful devices right now you can use is a smartphone. You can develop a smartphone app for public service vehicles that has tracking on it, that has QR scanning for ticketing on it, that can do all these different things and integrate them into a wider network for tracking on the system. Easily can increase ridership by 20-30% just by adding tracking alone. That will cover the cost. Another benefit would be real-time traffic data. Right? You have so many buses on the network, you can have real-time data on where the traffic is and where it's clogging, right? That would be the most downloaded app in Barbados. I bet you if you had a tracking app of buses in Barbados, it would be the most downloaded apps in this country. Thousands of advertising views, thousands of data points that you can use and the Ministry of Innovation can use and implement into that as well. And when you have knowledge between PSV operators, you can also get efficiencies. The economists like to talk about efficiencies with regularizing service. If I see three ZR vans in front of me, I'm going to hold off a little bit because there's capacity there. I will go a little bit later, 5-10 minutes later. And you can actually spread out the number of service and provide a better service overall to a person. So that's my short term. I know I'm wary of time, so I'll go on to the long-term initiatives now. Pardon?
I don't mean to cut you off, but you may have to email the rest of your solutions, only because I'm looking at the crowd thing, I know it's getting late, but they're good solutions so far. I like everything you've said so far, so I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. But if you could email those solutions, and then perhaps we could have a chat after this meeting, because I would really we had hoped to have the persons home by 9:30, so we're inching on it. So I see you still looking at the phone, but I'm asking you with great respect.
Can you give me 2 minutes?
To email, no, I'm not giving you any more time, but I'm asking you to email. I
didn't even get to my main point. Just give me 2 minutes.
Do your main point.
2 minutes.
Okay.
All right. I will skip over. I have a lot more to say, but I'll skip forward to the main thing. We talked about flyovers again, but I think money can be best put forward into actually upgrading the transportation network to the point where you can have a vision, let's vision with me here, for a light rail network, a grade separated light rail network along right-of-way uses along the highway. So this would be like a tram separated from the traffic, so you know that you can get from 6 roads connecting in the south along the highway, along the section, all into hitting major areas like Coverly and Newton, Gymnasium, Warrens, all up into, you might take Highway 2A or you might come along the Coast Road. You have a great separated tram network. That is going to revolutionize the country in a way that a flyover cannot do, because the flyover will have limited capacity. And trams and buses and mass transportation network can move people faster than any car can do and more efficiently. So I will implore on you and the members of the cabinet and so on to look at that type of vision. If you're going to put so much money into a flyover, just put 2 tracks on the side of the road. Way cheaper, right? And it's way simpler to maintain long term as well, because it's literally 2 metal tracks in the road. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
so much. I look forward to receiving the proposals, and I hope you fleshed out the real idea, because I don't know that you can say it's way cheaper, but I hope you flesh it out and that you share it with me so I could take a look at it, because I'm curious.
This is the thing, right? Like, to flesh these things out, you guys have the resources to hire consultants or do something like that. I can only tell you the average cost per mile. I can't tell you what the cost per mile in Barbados would be, but I would dare to beg to differ that, well, the visions that we have of flyover, if you're going to put a flyover on every main part of the highway,
I understand that point, but I was just
it's
talking
going to be
about
cheaper.
The one for the costings. I would love to see it, though.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Shall we move on now to question number 19? Yours was 19? Oh, so question number 20, I'm sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jason Brennan. A lot of points were talked about today, but one thing I would like to focus on, the traffic lights in Barbados. Our biggest issue is cars stopping in the middle of the road. So many cars need to stop, impeding traffic and impeding the way that cars are trying to get through with other lanes. Having a yellow box in the middle of the road to stop traffic and to stop cars impeding other cars will hugely impact that. Also, the times for the traffic lights. Just because, yes, we want to be able to give time for each lane, doesn't matter. When the traffic flow is increased on one side, we need to impede and allow that side to get more time to allow cars to come through. But all traffic lights in Barbados need to get readjusted in terms of times, because no cars are just moving because there are no cars there. So detection needs to be updated as well. There's a lot more implications of the technology that is out there that we can add to us here that will change a lot. In terms of roundabouts and the highway and all that, we need to look into better regulation of laws of how the highway is being utilized, better road roundabout. You cannot switch into a left lane while on the roundabout at the same time as other people. And I've seen multiple car accidents on a daily basis of this one factor. And there are no laws and legislations to prevent or stop people from doing this, other than the fact that they just hit another car. And they're not being implemented or fined for the fact of doing illegal driving. More laws need to be updated, and if we start adding in flyovers onto Barbados, we are not going to be able to, if we have not changed any legislations for laws for driving in Barbados after implementing and adding new infrastructure. How are we changing laws for allowing a flyover to go into Barbados and for cars to be able to use that flyover if no laws and regulations have already been in place for things that have changed? We need to update legislation and laws in Barbados. We have not done that for road safety. We have not done that for cars driving the road. The same driving permit test gets put out. The same people learn from the old generation of drivers, and therefore an update of drivers, update of knowledge of people on the road. There are no areas for new implementations of the road markings on the road. Road markings need to be updated. Roundabouts need to be updated. The way the driving has been done for years and years and years needs to be updated. Cars on the road, there are too many of them. A lot of them breaking down, a lot of them clogging the roads. Actually, in fact, most of the cars on the road are not being driven. They're being worked on by mechanics, blocking up areas and stopping cars from being able to get through. And there are, even though legislation did pass for getting cars for mechanics off the road, that has yet, because as we know in Barbados, after 2 years, a law becomes null and void. And therefore, cars go back on the road, on the side of the road, on the middle of the road, in areas, and stopping and impeding traffic because one guy's job, which we understand he has a living to do, is now going to pour over into other people, and into traffic, into everything, into daily life. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think those are all very good points. Some were raised before. I take the point on the legislation, though. P.S. I think we have to look at the legislation in relation to how the roads are to be run in Barbados, in the modern Barbados. When I was Minister of Social, the child protection legislation in Barbados was 120 years old. So you know that's totally irrelevant. It took us 120 years to change it. So I take the point on that, and I also take the point on the mechanics. Believe me. And regrettably, you're not wrong when you say sometimes we bring laws and we get hot and sweaty for a little bit, and then it goes back to nothing. So we'll go there later on. But it was nice talking to you, and we can have that other part of the conversation after. But I take the point. I would also encourage you, if you have the additional points, though, to email them or WhatsApp them in. But very good points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And remember, the email address is information.unit@publicworks.gov.bb, and the WhatsApp number is 266-3780. Number 22. 21.
Thank you.
I'm rushing you awfully on.
Mr. Chair, like most of the persons here believe that.
Could you please state your name?
My name is Leon Blades.
Thank you.
And I would have dealt with all these matters before, but there are some things that I recommended to MTW since before the 3S project stopped that has not been implemented. Case in point, if you're traveling between Norman Knowles roundabout and Bussa in that special statute, if you're traveling at night, you cannot see the right side where the bollards are. You cannot see the right side. The persons in the right lane of the two lanes going toward Bussa can't see the bollards because of the light coming in the opposite direction in your face. What I had suggested years ago is that some sort of lighting be put on top of the bollards so that drivers can see where they are. Okay? 1. 2. If Mr. Minister, I would like to agree with you that the speed limit on a heavy goods vehicle is 50 kilometers. They pass me on the highway doing 60 or 70. So you need to amend the laws somewhere. You have to do something. Enforcement might be a problem. But those vehicles that we bring in the island now are more powerful than they were 20 years ago. And they travel at extremely fast speeds. So something has to be done with that. Now, the area of the name Norman Knowles roundabout, if you're traveling along the highway going towards Bussa, and evening time, the traffic is on gridlock from between the Bell Junction to the Norman Knowles or before. When you get to the Norman Knowles roundabout, you have to wait on because traffic traveling along Highway 5, Highway 4, going through the St. George, that traffic travels. And then if you pass, when you get a chance to go through the lights, go through the roundabout, you can drive almost straight to Bussa without having to stop because there's no traffic there. I suggested years ago that you have signalized roundabouts. You have roundabouts, you can have electronic, you can have stop because the gateway system is not really working now because of the volume of traffic. So you need signalized roundabout. It can happen at the Bussa roundabout. It can happen at the Garfield Stores roundabout. It can happen at Huddersfield Turn. All of those more signalized roundabouts. You can do that and it can minimize. You only have an off-peak period. Peak periods, let's a case in point. Those coming from Sergeant's Village, going to Rendezvous, they can be stopped and let the ones on the highway travel and then the other travel. So that can be done cheaper than perhaps flyovers. And I said that when the TRAS had the project, but it wasn't worked on. There are a number of things that can work. When I mentioned the Marine House was, Marine Garden, so you have to add Navy Gardens because that road is very bad. So look at that. But I want to spend some time to look at the vulnerable people on the roads. The vulnerable people on the roads are the pedestrians. We are once an adult and twice the child, right? So you're a child, you're becoming an adult, an older adult, can't use the roads. And enough attention is not paid to the road users, the walkers. I would like to suggest that we have to pay some attention to it. An investment in making sure that children know about road safety is an investment in their livelihood as they get older, becoming road users. Because if they know it as a child, most of us, I think all of us would agree that when we were in school, they would tell, when you come to the junction, look right, left, and right again. But they never thought that a child cannot make the assessment of speed of a vehicle approaching them as an adult can. So something has to give. So you have to educate people. And I'm thinking that something is lacking. And I would like to urge the ministry to look at that. Because you seem to be the only person looking after road safety. Because I think that perhaps you need a road safety unit, or you might need a road safety officer coordinating the efforts of concerns of motorists on the road. Right? You need something more than just that. Road safety education is important. So I want to suggest they look at pedestrians, making sure they talk about making sure that pedestrians know how to use the roads and how to judge the road. Right? A child can be perceived as a mini adult, but the thinking, the judgment, the ability is not the same. So maybe you have to look at that. So we have to spend some time. I'm not sure if you can spend some time looking at zoning around the schools to limit the amount of traffic or the speeds around the schools. I know there are signs around the schools, but you might have to limit the speeds around the schools. So it says making sure that what happened is President Kennedy Drive some time ago with a child being knocked down. It's going God mercy that the child didn't die, that can repeat itself. So we need to pay attention to that. So the school zoning around the area is important. Now, there's a lot more can be said, and you mentioned drive-through, and when I remember, there's a drive-through on Wildy Road, Chef. All these things, those areas, maybe that we can look at how we can deal with it. It becomes very popular. There's a road next to the polyclinic in Wildy. Maybe you can get something to cut right through to come into the same Chevette compound, so you can get a drive or the area to come through there and take the road, the load off the main road, or the stopping from the main road, and that can work. If the government can acquire the land or get something to take the strain off the road, those are the things that need to be done. Okay, consider that. But yes, Mr. Antoine. No, I am finishing. But there are lots of other things that can be said.
You may get to say one more, email the rest. But I must say, it's really good to see you. You left as a superintendent or inspector?
I left as assistant superintendent.
It's good to see you, Miss Assistant Superintendent Blades.
Yeah.
Minister, I think, Mr. Blades, you have given yourself a job in terms of the safety education.
Yeah. Education is important. Mm-hmm. There's no two ways about it. Education is important. So even the drivers need education.
But I am thinking that the PS is serious, actually.
No, I'm very serious, Mr.
The
Blades.
drivers need education.
And you look very well too, very, very well. I'm quite sure you'll be up to it.
And the only person who does the driver training is the police. So you need somebody to do some driver training, because the training, the people are inadequate.
Mr. Blades, I want to ask you two questions though. One is, you specifically mentioned the section of road between the normalized roundabout and Bussa in terms of not being able to see the medium.
Yes.
Haven't you seen that in other areas along the ABC
Yes.
highway? Certainly, I have as well.
Yes.
And my other question is, have you also observed that there's also an issue of right-turning traffic into Chauffet in 6 roads?
Yes, that's another area. I can't get Princess Margaret Wednesday, but that's another area. Chauffet in 6 rows, the gas station going by Princess Margaret School. There's problem. There's Shell and Warrens. All those are problem areas, but we are not addressing them.
ASP, we're going to have to email the rest or WhatsApp the rest, but I am very happy to hear you, honestly. But I am just trying to be respectful of the time and realizing that I am actually past the time. But you've had really good suggestions, and if it is acceptable to you, perhaps we can have a private conversation. But
I'm available anytime.
Your comments will be taken
Mr. Wiltshire will tell you that. Jehu will tell you that.
Right.
And Jason, I'm available anytime.
Mr. Blaze, you can say the rest at the next public meeting at Princess Margaret.
But that means I've got to go in 6 rows. But there's a lot to be said, even in St. Philip, in 6 rows area. I rest my case.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Question number 22.
I don't think people know how much service you've been to this country, you see. And so my gratitude to you is immense. But thank you very much.
Question number 22.
Good evening, Joseph Holder.
Joseph Holder.
Mr. Moderator, Mr. Minister, head table, flyovers. I have no knowledge, no expertise in flyovers. But what I would like to hear from you, sir, is where can I go online or in a building somewhere and see what are the proposed structures or whatever they are, the designs, whatever it is that we can see to see how it is going to blend into the landscape of our infrastructure. Is there somewhere we can do that? That's one question relative to flyovers. 2, if and when the flyovers are installed and or constructed, how do you foresee them alleviating the traffic congestion? The reason for the question is, will this not be moving traffic from, let's say, a 2-lane highway, high-speed carriageway, onto a single-lane secondary road? Is that the type of structure that we're going to have? Where, for instance, let's say you're coming off the highway and you are then moving the traffic off of the highway that's supposed to be moving, in some instances, 60, 80 kilometers. Then you're dumping that traffic in the traffic flow in that area. The traffic flow in that area. I'm asking that we don't wait until it happened, because obviously, if we have additional hotels, I think it was said that we were going to drop some piles, columns up, bring it, lift it over the water, a couple, several feet, and have something like our water taxis, where you can move persons from Oistins down to, your first stop would be Bridgetown, your next stop would be Old Town, and then your next stop would be Spikestown. So we are looking at even persons can build a high-rise car park in Oistins. People can park there from the St. Philip Christchurch area, get on the tram or whatever we do out in the water, and go down to Bridgetown, go down to Old Town, go down to Spikestown, because those will be the only stops. That's my submission to you, and I await the answers to your question. I'm obliged to you.
Thank you, Joe.
Right. Just a reminder that, remember, we came here to hear the queries that you, the public, have. and also to take on board your solutions, what you recommend as well, right? So the emphasis really, we were not here coming to bring all of our solutions to the problems that you were thinking. We were hoping that you would bring your own solutions. So your idea of a water taxi, that is something that we can also take on board as well, right? But however, in terms of the flyovers, we will have a separate consultation relative to that to discuss on that and its solutions and so forth, right?
Thank you very much.
Before you
Sorry?
move off, because I see, what's your name, sir?
Joseph Holder.
Joseph, we will have a separate consultation on the flyovers, but I've seen, obviously there have been plans going into the flyovers. We didn't just snap our fingers and do it. So, but there will be a time when we feel that conversation is ripe, and we're going to show the plans and get more feedback on the way forward one. In relation to the water taxis, I used to be a minister of maritime, and we put out 3 calls for proposals for persons to partner with the government to be able to help us build out the water taxi solution. We put out 3. Nobody responded. People want them, but nobody wants to invest in them. You understand? So when we put it out, no, I'm telling you the truth. Let me finish, because you don't know what you're about to tell you. But I can see you're eager to hear your own view. But let me tell you, so we put out 3 different times, and we were saying to the people, come forward, the government will provide the land, space, because a lot of persons actually make money, not necessarily from the infrastructure itself, but when you build up the shops and the things around the actual infrastructure, they become like almost like mini towns, really, you know? But nobody responded. But everybody we consulted with wants them. And I'm saying to whoever is in the sound of my voice, the government is still very keen to do water taxis because they make sense. The other thing is people sent me a lot of pictures of cute little water taxis on rivers. The Atlantic Ocean is not a river. So these cute little things and these little, you know, then we had to have had consultations with coastal. It's a little bit more, somebody gave me a quote earlier. I saw it and write it down about complex and simple. It was too complex, and I'm too simple, but I didn't get it. But it was this really nice quote about, these things may look simple, but they're very, very, very complex. And then the point about the roads and the traffic on the South Coast, there have been some studies. Of course, we anticipate with the amount of people that could be coming, we're going to have to do. That's why we're having this whole thing. But how do we accommodate traffic into Bridgetown? And my view, but this is not the government's view or anybody's view, there's certain parts of Bridgetown that shouldn't even be open to traffic at all. You know, Barbados, our little Bridgetown city should be a place where people could go and enjoy a coffee right there. They ain't got to worry about cars, and we find a way to work the traffic around. Yeah, exactly. We had actually discussed that too, having a tram from the port somewhere up to the town. And so there have been conversations. The thing is, when we sit down now with all these ideas, we have to have all these contending ideas and see how best we develop that program. But I take the point. And I also take the point, my first daughter went to St. Angela's, which is where the garrison is supposed to be. So it's not the first time it's going to be a school. And it was we always had traffic in that area. That's why we have to look at the idea. I mean, I've heard the PM suggestion was in relation to traffic coming into town. I heard a similar suggestion from Carl Williams. I've heard it from some other people. We're just putting ideas on the table, and at the end of the day, we're going to go through the ideas and see the ones that work. That's all.
Thank you, Minister. We move on now to question number 23.
Thank you. The name is Ernest King. I've got a number of points, but I just want to endorse the last one that was made because I had a very similar thought in mind, but rather than a water taxi, I was thinking in terms of a fast ferry moving from Oistins, perhaps the St. Lawrence area, and then into Bridgetown, and one coming from Spikestown, stopping in Holetown into Bridgetown, and the two from the 2 different areas then returning, and therefore you have those kind of hopping things. All right, so what is the most important of what I want to mention? Let me just start with this one. And this is to do not with the major roads, but with secondary roads. Right now, For instance, getting out of the gap that I live, there are mechanics in a lot of secondary roads that take on work and they don't have the physical space to manage that work, and they just park them to the side of the road, and it is like, you know, you can either like it or lump it. And I would suggest that that is unacceptable, that a person can just tell a person who wants to do business with them for their personal financial gain, park it here and I'll work on it. Go and get the parts, and if you don't have the parts, sometimes the same vehicle is sitting down for 6-7 months. And you are parked behind a row of 6 or 8 vehicles. The road beyond that congestion is free, but the traffic coming down is coming down 1 every 10 seconds, and you can't move. That is obstructions, and that is primarily in secondary roads and tenantry roads and so on. My suggestion concerning this is, can the government mandate that all of these small town mechanics move all their vehicles off the road by 2030? Give them some time, give them 4 years. By 2030, if you are running a business in which you are personally profiting from your business at the disadvantage of the public.
You want to give them 4 years?
You know why I would give them 4 years? Because I'll tell you why I'll give them 4 years. Because the first thing they can say is that the small black man hurting and you're hitting the poor man. Give them 4 years. Because I tell you, if you don't give them 4 years and you give them 2, at the end of 2, you're going to give them 2 more. So give them 4 at the beginning. Alternatively, for instance, I grew up in the Gazette's area. The Gazette's Industrial Park is almost a ghost town. Move them to the government. With the government assistance, they can move into the Gazette's Industrial Park. Newton, there's part of Newton that is underutilized, and the government may facilitate the setting up of structured small areas where mechanics can converge, and perhaps then you will have the part suppliers moving to these areas, but you give them a long time and you tell them they have to move. Either you bring your vehicle, park it on your lot, or you will not be allowed to block the road to everyone else's inconvenience. That's one point on that. We've had, at the outbreak of COVID, we had BIM Safe because we needed to act expeditiously in order to save the public. So we had BIM Save. Now we're going to have BIM Pay. This is going to be rolled out shortly. Can we have BIM Traffic? I came from my farm in St. Lucie the other day, and tired as ever, exhausted, wanted to get home. When I passed Portville, hit right there, there's a road sign, road closed off. Now, if I had had a notice, perhaps 200 meters earlier, telling me the road 202 yards ahead or 200 yards is closed, then I could have gone down from Orange Hill and all the way around. Why can't, there is no care for the times of person. We could simply say road closed 200 meters ahead. And if you have BIM traffic, like it was mentioned by a presenter earlier, that it would be one of the most downloaded apps. Because when I'm leaving home to go to the north or go to the east, the first thing I'm going to do, BIM traffic, which roads closed?
You know, right now when I'm leaving home, I use Waze or Google Maps. It's not as efficient as yours.
But it doesn't tell you which roads are closed.
When you get close, it tells you that they wouldn't know if you closed the road yesterday or the day before.
Correct.
So I take your point. We need to be able to communicate much better in the ministry to the public about the road closure. I must tell you, I had the unfortunate experience of going all the way down from Highway 2 to Highway 1 with the idea of turning left. And when I got halfway down, there was so much traffic only because I realized at that point that you couldn't turn left. So you had to turn right or go back up, and that road was also filled with traffic. So I take the point, man. When you're experiencing it, it's one of the most ridiculous things. And I've said to the ministry, we have to communicate a lot better about the roads that we've closed.
And you know what's really painful? Sometimes you've just moments ago passed a turn that you could have easily taken.
You can't turn around.
And then you're gridlocked. You can't go anywhere. The other suggestion is that during COVID, we had a significant number of persons working at home. Can the government, for itself, and mandate that other private businesses have, for instance, a 4+1 work week? mandate that their staff, if government was to say to all its workers, for instance, all government workers will work 4 days in the office and 1 on Zoom, you take 20% of government traffic off the road, except for those who have to go to school. And there are some businesses that could really run a 3+2. If the government takes a lead and the government was to say, the nature of this business is that you don't need to bring persons to the office, government takes a lead. Or we can say, I have a son-in-law in the UK, he works 4 days a week, 10 hours a day. I'm sure that if I was working in government and someone offered me the opportunity to work 4 days a week at 10 hours, then I would probably take it, because I would say 1 day less on the road, 1 day less traffic. I'm in it. Government need to take the initiative, lead the way, and encourage the private sector to follow it. I'm going to move quickly because I know there are a number of persons want to make contributions.
Well, you have Ernest. You have the opportunity and the privilege to send your information via email, if you will.
Now, the other suggestion I'm going to make is charge vehicles. Now, the nature of the role of government is to make decisions which are for the greater good. Even if the individual is inconvenienced or pained or angered by it, the needs of the many must outweigh the needs of the few. We always talk about the Singapore model. Now, Singapore was a dictatorship, so that was handled quite differently. It is not a model that is feasible to Barbados, but it is often spoken of. If the government were to say vehicles that are moving on the road between 6:30 and 9:30, between peak hours, that have 1 person in it, would face a fine. Now, persons will be enraged. But we know what you're encouraging persons to do. Listen, you take my daughter to school today, and I'll take yours tomorrow, or I'll take mine next week. This is very similar to the day off, day on, day off. But you're forcing persons to do what is really natural to Barbadians. Barbadians are naturally communicative, and we can embrace each other. So if you find persons, you going down at peak hours with 1 person in your car, once you hit this traffic camera, you're going to have a fine coming to you in the mail. You have to force Bajans to do what is right. The other suggestion, this one would need to be fleshed out a lot more, encourage private individuals who are coming out of the country to pick up persons from the road and charge them the bus fare. If I pick you up at the bus stop and I take the $3.50 from you, but of course the government may need to come in and register vehicles who want to take place in the program, and the person who want to take this ride will know that he's paying no more than the $3.50. The government can then manage the process by saying, it is therefore marrying a person who is volunteering to pick up people in the country or in a faraway region, bring them to town, and you're married with the person who is prepared to pay. What you may do is say to that person, for a vehicle to be approved, it must have a front and back dash cam, and it must prove then the government is vetting that vehicle, perhaps giving it a special sticker or whatever, and say, you can now move people. Because mass transit in Barbados is dead. It's not working. The only ones who seem to be able to make money out of it is those who are prepared to disregard the law and be a law unto their own selves. And successive governments over the decades have said they're going to do something with the ZR, and they can't even get them to stop playing music. I remember when I was in school, a ZR in which I was traveling almost killed me. He driving fast, almost running to the back of somebody, had to climb the sidewalk. When persons quarreled with him, he lambasted the entire passengers until he just saved their life by running off the road. So the government must be prepared to take tough decisions and perhaps embrace ideas, notions, concepts that are maybe a little bit muscular in the implementation, and find out if Bajans are willing to take a risk. If I'm a passenger and I'm a woman, I will say, okay, I know that my ride is going to come. When my ride comes, I am texting my daughter or my aunt and tell her, okay, I'm getting XA 521. Bam. So there are ways it can be done, and the government is facilitating it, not managing it. Exactly. or whatever.
All right, thank you very
I'll
much.
write the rest.
Thank you very much. We move on now to our final question, that being question number 24.
All right. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Bell O'Brien, and I'm coming from South Coast as well. So most of my points have already been mentioned tonight, so I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse. But I really agreed with, I don't see him anymore, but Mr. Knight that was talking about the digitalization of like the apps and such. I think that's a fantastic idea. Furthermore, in 2018, I was a beta tester for an app that was being developed here in Barbados. I believe it was called Beat Bus, where it was supposed to be one where you could see in real time when the buses were coming, how close they were to your designated bus stop, that sort of thing. And when I lived in Brazil, that was an app that well, not Beat Bus, but I used to use apps like that all the time, and it made my transportation significantly easier. And I remember being really excited when that app came out, and I did the testing. It was fantastic. It worked brilliantly, and then it just kind of fizzled out. Never saw anything else from it. And I don't know exactly the reason why, but I was told that a reason why it never got forward was I just didn't get much support going down. I don't know. But I think something like that would significantly help the attitude towards public transportation in Barbados. So at least you can tell, okay, well, if the bus is going to take 2 hours to get there, at least I don't have to go and sit at that bus stop for 2 hours. I can do something else with my time or find an alternate solution. Secondly, the gentleman that just went before me, he briefly touched on doing like hybrid work situations, and that's something I was going to bring up as well. Where in COVID, we learned the hard way that we can do things online, we can do things digitally, we can do more digital work. You don't need to actually be in the office to get work done, and it would significantly take cars off the road to do that. So maybe, and I know this is Ministry of Transport and Works, so maybe they could suggest to other businesses or other public sectors or industries or whatsoever to maybe encourage more remote work or more hybrid work. I think that could help take some cars off the road. Furthermore, because I work from home as well, but furthermore, when I used to work in Warrens, whenever I needed to do personal errands during the day, I had to use my lunch hour or I had to skedaddle after work to get where I needed to go. And that was always a frustration. So I remember using my lunch hour to go to the bank, go to pick up an item from the supermarket, that sort of thing. Easier said than done, I know, but is there some way that maybe the ministry could work or someone relevant could work with essential services such as the banks and credit unions or supermarkets so they can extend their opening hours, so maybe they can open a little earlier in the morning, they can close a little later in the evenings, maybe even work on weekends. So the banks they can maybe open half day, like 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on a weekend, so that is not such a crammed short time for people to go and get their errands done. So yeah, that's all my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that being the final question, I certainly would want to thank you, members of the audience, for your feedback.
No, I would like the
offerings.
CEO of the Transport Board to say something about because I keep hearing about the app. Maybe you could share.
Thank you, Minister. In relations to the digitization of the transport sector, you may be aware that the board has made several announcements with regards to cashless, which is automatic fare collection. We have also made prior announcements in relations to bus tracking. Internally, we use GPS and we do all of that. We have a little network thing to set up so we can see all the buses. We actually have an app already in, and we are going to do an official launch very shortly to the public, but it's already in the App Store, right? So Google. So Google Play. So, pardon? Oh, I got it on my phone. Transit BB. Yeah. So it's already there. So if you search, you will find it. And it allows you to see, it has all the bus stops backed in as well. So we are going to do an official launch pretty soon in the new financial year in April. And that is going to be coming out and rolled out for everybody.
Thank you very much. It's not the opportunity, Minister. Be so kind to offer closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to thank all the persons who came out and all the persons who contributed. Some of the comments were new, some were supportive, some were not so supportive, but they were all very real and all were very appreciated. So I want to thank the persons who came out. We know that we have to solve the traffic problem. I mean, there is no doubt in our minds that if we put our collective resources together, we can address these challenges as it pertains to traffic to be able to offer Barbadians a better deal. Because what we are experiencing now would frustrate anybody. So we want to encourage people to come out for all of the other conversations. I know that we have this information. I think what matters is what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with all these beautiful, wonderful data points that came in? And how are we then going to communicate to the public the plans, having listened to the public? Because I do not want the impression to be given, because it would not be the truth, that these consultations are just talk. This is actually going to shape government policy as it relates to transportation. So I want to thank you. We're going to share, when we're done, after the 4 consultations, we're going to share. I didn't realize you were here, Raphael, quiet the entire time. I would have loved to have heard from you. Maybe you will speak to me in St. Philip. But to share the conversation and be able to tell the public this is what came from that conversation, and to allow us to shape government policy as well. I want to thank all the public servants who came out. I know I kept them out. Most of them haven't had a chance to go home. I know I kept them out the entire day. I want to thank them for coming. I want to thank all of you who came and shared all of your ideas. I want to encourage persons to come out in St. Philip for the meeting on Wednesday, particularly persons from the East, to be able to comment more specifically about their reality on that side of the island. And I ask God's grace on all of you and wish you that you will get home safe and sound. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much. That brings an end to our first conversation on the traffic management in Barbados. Be reminded that the next session will be on Wednesday at Princess Margaret Secondary School. Then we go into the following week, Monday at the St. Michael's School, and Wednesday, April 1st, at the Alexandra School, starting at 6:30 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Travel safely.